Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the FNAF fan games that completely raised the bar for everyone else. Whether it was their gameplay, visuals, storytelling, or overall polish, these games changed what players expected from a fan project. Some of these inspired an entire generation of developers to aim even higher, so let's dive into them. Juniors is the most unique FNAF fan game I've ever played, and I have played a lot of them. Really. I've quite literally built my entire career around playing FNAF games, and Juniors is 100% the most fun I've ever had playing any FNAF game ever designed. This video is here to go over everything I love about the game and the few things that I hate, because truly, I do not believe there is currently any FNAF fan game that does the formula better than Juniors. So let's waste no more time on the intro that nobody cares about and get into the best FNAF fan game ever made. Before we begin talking about Juniors, I want to tell a bit of a story, or I guess more of a fun fact. I actually wanted to avoid playing and reviewing Juniors for the longest time. I've been getting suggestions for it since my first ever FNAF video over a year ago, and I've always decided that I didn't want to touch it. Why? Because I used to have this really cringy way of thinking. If something is popular, it must be overrated type of mentality. After finally sitting down and playing through Juniors, seeing it completely blind for my first time ever, I will never in my life think like that ever again. This game truly has made me more passionate to create content more than any other game ever has. Set your expectations as high as you want, and I guarantee Juniors will still blow them out of the water. We play as an unnamed paranormal investigator. We're assigned with exploring the supernatural presence of the restaurant Juniors. As I'm sure you may have guessed, yes, this is the same Juniors that can be seen in the Midnight Motorist minigame from Pizzeria Simulator. We wake up in a place called the Barrens, which seems to be a limbo between life and death. Looking up, we can see what I assume to be our own brain, and we soon meet a character named Paul Bear. Throughout this game, we don't learn much about Paul Bear, but he is the only friend we have throughout the game. Paul Bear explains that there is an evil presence inside of the Juniors establishment, only ever referring to it as the Ghost. Eventually, we strike a deal with Paul Bear. He agrees to help us with our investigation of Juniors, and we agreed to help Paul Bear find freedom from the Ghost by defeating it in one way or another. With that, we head to bed and start our first night. Usually, the way I talk about nights in FNAF games is pretty basic. I bring up which threats are introduced, how to deal with them, and throw in a dick joke or something. However, Juniors does the entire FNAF formula so differently from any other FNAF game I've seen, so covering this is going to be a fun change of pace. To start, Juniors completely gets rid of the sit and survive style of gameplay that most other FNAF games have. The game still has the classic 6 nights, however, each night isn't completed once you've made it to an arbitrary time limit. Instead, similar to a game like Pizzeria Simulator, progression is based on finishing tasks. Except the key difference between the tasks in Pizzeria Simulator and the tasks in Juniors is that one of those games has super fun tasks that I look forward to doing, and the other game is fucking Pizzeria Simulator. But what exactly are the tasks in Juniors? I'm so glad you asked, because these tasks are the sole reason why this game is so amazing. Throughout the night, the ghost Paul Bear was telling us about will enter one of the animatronics at random. It's our job to watch the cameras for weird anomalies and figure out which animatronic is possessed. And each night, you will have to correctly identify where the ghost is more and more times. On night 1, you need to correctly identify the ghost 2 times, and with each subsequent night, that number goes up by 1. But before we really get into that, there's something else that this game does that I wasn't expecting. Typically in FNAF games, the animatronics will make their way to your office and try to attack you. This is actually not the case in Juniors. The animatronics will never come to your office. Well, at least not in the typical FNAF way, but I'll cover that in a minute. The tools at our disposal are pretty minimal. We have our cameras, control panel, and our repair room. Throughout the course of the night, if you check your control panel, you will be able to see the condition of each of the 6 animatronics. Yes, 6. You've got the main 4, with the addition of the marionette and balloon bitch, or as this game calls him, balloon baby. As the night progresses, the condition of each of these characters will decrease. If they ever go completely empty, they'll use your ass as sustenance and gobble it up. At any time, you can send one of the animatronics onto a conveyor belt that will bring the character to your repair room. Once inside the repair room, you can quickly fix them and send them back into the pizzeria. This will cause their condition to go back up to 100. However, you have to be careful, because if you send the possessed animatronic to your office, it's game over. Another thing to note is that you can't send more than one character to your repair room at a time. Moving on to the actual ghost hunting part of this game. As mentioned previously, there are 6 characters that the ghost can possess. Both at the start of the night and directly after identifying the possessed character, you will get a grace period where no animatronic is possessed. You should use that time to send the lowest conditioned animatronic to your office to be repaired. There are multiple different cues to tell you who the possessed animatronic is. It seems like throughout the nights, new clues are introduced. However, I cannot find a distinct list of what clues get introduced each night, so I'm going to be guessing based on my experience. If you know that I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. There are 2 clues that are introduced on night 1. The first one is pretty easy: camera flickering. When an animatronic is possessed, they have a chance to cause the camera that they are currently on to start flickering. The cameras by default flicker their lights, so this is pretty subtle, but if you look closely at an actual flickering camera, you'll be able to tell that the ghost is on it, because between the flickering, the cameras will have a brief period where they go black. That sounds pretty easy, I hear you saying, and while yes, it is, this is another part of the game that I think is super cool. There aren't an insane amount of cameras to look through, and it's very common that multiple characters will be visible on a camera at the same time. So this brings up the possible problem. If the cameras are flickering on a camera, but multiple characters are present, how do we figure out which of the animatronics is actually the possessed one? This right here, this conflict that you have to figure out, is the main reason why I love this game so much. It's such a simple problem, but the way you go about solving it can be different depending on your playstyle. This is honestly the coolest mechanic I've ever seen out of any FNAF game, and I don't think it's ever going to be beat. So, what was my strategy? Let's start with the hypothetical that we'll use throughout this video. Let's say we're looking at a camera that has Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy present on it. The camera is flickering, so we know that either Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, or Foxy are the possessed animatronic. The first thing I would do is either send Balloon Bitch or the Marionette to the conveyor belt, since I know full well it can't be one of them. So I'd just pick whoever has lower condition. Then I would constantly keep my eye on all 4 animatronics on that camera until 1 or more of them left. Once they left, let's say for example Freddy and Chica leave, I would stay on the camera to see if the flickering persisted. If it did, then I'd know it can't be Freddy or Chica. Let's say Foxy left next and Bonnie stayed on the camera. If the lights stopped flickering, then I'd know for a fact it has to be Foxy. And if I really wanted to double check, I could find the camera where Foxy left to and see that the lights are still flickering. But as I've said, that is only 2 of the clues that are introduced on this night. What's the other? Handprints. I should mention that once the ghost possesses a character, only 1 of the clues will become present in that character until it is found. And from what I can tell, they never switch which clue they have until the ghost is found. Handprints are pretty simple. When a possessed character leaves a camera, they will leave a handprint behind on the lens of the camera. So let's go back to our hypothetical again. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are all on 1 camera. Freddy and Chica leave, and after doing so, we spot a handprint on the lens. That means we now know that the ghost has to be in either Freddy or Chica. So we can send either Foxy, Bonnie, the Marionette, or Balloon Bitch to the conveyor belt, and all that's left is to watch Freddy or Chica. Whoever we choose, we wait for them to leave a camera. If Chica leaves and a handprint isn't seen, that means the possessed character has to be Freddy. And with that, night 1 is in the bag. After the night, we head back to the Barrens and talk to Paul Bear again. He explains that he himself chooses to stay in the Barrens because the ghost won't go there. Pussy-ass ghost Paul Bear is afraid of another ghost. Don't question it. It's kind of like those people who are afraid of other people. What do we call those things? Oh, yeah, moderators. Anyways, night 2 time. Night 2 doesn't appear to add any new clues. However, I will take this time to talk about how Paul Bear can aid in our investigations throughout the night. If at any point you're confused on who the ghost may be hiding in, Once per night, you can go to the control panel and actually ask Paul Bear who he thinks it is. He'll be able to narrow it down to 2 characters. Do you need this to beat the Knights? No, but I do think it's kind of neat that it's available if you're struggling. I only ever used it once throughout my playthrough on accident because I didn't know that clicking on this would actually cause him to give me a hint. Also, if you want to watch my full playthrough, you can do so on my second channel, Dexter Black. It's also on this night where I want to bring up the Marionette and Balloon Bitch. Since you can never actually see either of them on the cameras, you may be wondering how you're supposed to be able to tell if they are possessed. I'll talk about the Marionette later, so for now I'll talk about Balloon Bitch. His mechanic is actually incredibly simple, and I honestly think it's one of the weakest mechanics in the entire game. All you have to do to check if Balloon Bitch is possessed is look at your control panel. If his condition number is freaking the fuck out, he's possessed. If it's not, he's not. That's it. Again, I don't really think that this has a good reason for existing. Maybe the dev just wanted a 6th character so that there would be 3 on each side on the control panel, but I feel like it would have been much more interesting if you just allowed Balloon Bitch to be seen on the camera like the main 4. He could have been made to be a more challenging character. Since he's smaller than everyone else, having him hide in the cameras and be immune to the motion sensor could have been a super interesting challenge. But let me know what you guys think about Balloon Bitch in the comments. After completing night 2, we find a VHS tape. Watching it shows a claymation of Freddy carrying an animatronic limb up to a door. The door has a note on it that says, "Beware the Mangle." Looking up, Freddy appears to see said Mangle looming down on him, and the cutscene comes to a close. Heading back to the Barrens, we ask Paul Bear about what we saw on the tape. He says he believes that the ghost is trying to build itself a body in the form of the Mangle, and that it's possessing the other characters to bring the parts to it. Appearing that we're now on a timer, we know that we have to do something, so we head to sleep and move on to night 3. Night 3 introduces one new clue that the characters can use: camera movement. This one is pretty simple. However, I should start by explaining how the cameras work a little bit more. Typically in FNAF games, the camera will slowly pan back and forth as you look at them. In Juniors, you have to manually move the cameras to see the full picture using WASD. The camera movement clue does exactly what you'd think. If you're moving the cameras, the ghost can cause it to jerk in a direction you're not moving it in. My camera got fucked a little bit, the weird control. I don't know if that was me fucking around or if that was the heathen. Whoa. My camera just fucking zipped. Using that, you can follow the exact same method as the flickering clue. However, the camera will not jerk if you aren't moving the cameras, so you'll need to get into the habit of doing that often. Although that really shouldn't be a problem since, again, you can't see the whole camera unless you move it. This is also the night where I want to talk about the Marionette and how she works. Just like Balloon Bitch, you can't see the Marionette on the cameras. However, you can hear her. You can tell which camera she is on by listening for the music box. If you hear it, then you know that the Marionette is on whichever camera you're looking at. Fundamentally, is this different from the 4 main characters? No. However, I do think it's a super fun addition to the formula, where if we were using our hypothetical again from earlier, let's imagine all 4 of the main characters are on a camera and the camera is jerking in a random direction when we move it. Then all 4 characters leave at the same time, but the camera is still somehow jerking. Then you notice that you've been hearing the music box the whole time and just weren't paying attention. Now you know that it has to be the Marionette. It's not that it's hard to figure out, but it may be something that slips your mind as you're so focused on trying to find the ghost. I love the Marionette in this game, and if you couldn't guess from my constant glaze, it's the best Marionette I've ever seen out of any FNAF game. After completing night 3, we find another tape. On it, we watch the ghost leave Freddy and move to Bonnie. Then see Bonnie carry another piece of the Mangle to the secret door. This is another thing I really like about this game. Even though you can't feel it, you know both you and Paul Bear are in a race against the clock. As with every passing night, the Mangle gets closer and closer to being completed, and you know that once it's finished, your chances of winning become slim to none. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear isn't present. Climbing up a ladder, we find him in a tree looking out at the brain. We tell him that our investigation ends soon. Paul Bear mentions that the spirits know he's in the Barrens with us by now, and we devise a plan to break into the secret room. the basement, and get to the mangle before it's put together. Sharing a moment of solace together, we head back into the restaurant. Somehow, this game is actually making me care about a character, which is insane to say given the fact I'm talking about a FNAF game right now. But regardless, it's on to Night 4. Night 4 introduces the most ball-busting clue we've ever seen: camera malfunctions. This does exactly what you'd think. The possessed animatronic will cause a malfunction on whatever camera they are on. That means if we go back to our hypothetical, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the marionette are all on the same camera. One of them becomes possessed, so we lose the ability to see that camera. Fuck. Continuing to watch the cameras, we hear the music box stop, but the malfunction continues. We now know that it can't be the marionette. All of a sudden, the camera pops back on, and all we can see is Bonnie. Well, now we know that it can't be Bonnie. Now we look around the cameras until we find the malfunctioning one again. As we look, we spot Foxy on a camera. We now know that the ghost is either Freddy or Chica. Oh fuck. You quickly check the control panel and see that Freddy and Chica are both at 15 stability. What are we to do? We don't have enough time to keep watching. So it is now our time to make a decision you will probably have to make at least once in your playthrough. Praying to the RNG gods that the ghost isn't in Freddy as you send him down the conveyor belt. Freddy finally arrives and you don't die, so you now know it has to be Chica. Realistically, this exact situation doesn't happen all too often, but I do think this malfunction clue is by far the most stressful out of all of them. I think it adds a new type of tension that the game needed. I love this clue. I think it adds a whole new interesting way of analyzing the threat. It's fantastic. After completing the night, we find another VHS. In it, we see the ghost possess Chica while she's sleeping, and she takes another piece to the basement. Heading back to the Barrens, we keep it short and sweet with Paul Bear. He says he knows of a way to the basement, and we tell him that after we wrap up our investigation tonight, we'll meet back up with him and head there to put an end to this. Heading to bed, it's on to Night 5. Night 5 adds no new clues, only being a more difficult version of Night 4, and by more difficult, I mean we have to find the ghost 7 times instead of 6. I'm really out of things to talk about when it comes to the night sections, as I've talked about everything that's relevant throughout them. All we have left to talk about now is in the basement. After completing Night 5, we get one last tape revealing all of the characters awakening the mangle, a foreshadow of what's to come. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear explains the plan. We'll go along with whatever the mangle has planned and lure her into the Barrens and trap her forever. We say our final goodbyes to Paul Bear and enter the basement, not knowing what's ahead of us. Upon entering the basement, we're greeted to a new office. The basement serves as Night 6, the boss fight night. I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I am not a fan of Night 6, gameplay-wise at least. I think it looks great, and I think it serves excellent story purposes, but I think it's a massive step back from the core loop of the game. The basement is set up exactly how the office from FNAF 2 is. 2 open vents to your left and right, and a large hallway in front of you. You have access to a flashlight, cameras, and a Bonnie mask. Yes, it's literally just FNAF 2, even equipped with a music box to constantly wind throughout. Maybe this is the reason I don't like this night. Just kidding, it's not a maybe. Of course this is the reason I don't like it. I'm not a huge FNAF 2 fan personally, so seeing it in a FNAF game that I really like puts a bad taste in my mouth. However, I'm not going to let that discourage me. How does this night play, and are there any redeeming qualities? Throughout the night, all you have to do is wind the music box and put on your mask whenever the animatronic enters your office. If you ever see Foxy in the hallway, flash your light at him. Guys, it's literally just FNAF 2. I really don't have to explain this to you. The characters even look different on this night, and in the extras menu, this version of them is called Withered. It's FNAF 2. That's it. That is until the halfway mark. What the fuck? Beware the mangle. What the fuck? Conveyor belt. Yo! What the fuck? Yo, the time's all fucked. What the fuck is that thing? Oh nah. Halfway through the night, your control panel will be forced up. You'll be able to see the conveyor belt and watch as each character makes its way through. Several sticky notes ridiculing you. Every single animatronic sacrifices its body to the mangle, and it's finally time for the final fight. The Mangle enters the building, and now is the perfect time to talk about how fucking disgusting these character models look, especially Mangle. The level of detail in these characters is insane. Seeing Mangle on the cameras is probably the most uncomfortable thing about this entire game. She's so gross and it's super cool. But I do have to ask the question, why the fuck do they look like this? Is our main character going insane and imagining that they look like monsters more than they do? Or did the manufacturers of these robots actually design the most fucked up, creepy robots of all time? Anyways, once the Mangle spawns, the way this night is played changes. Now, for some unknown reason, Mangle has an owl attached to her. Does that make sense? I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I can't for the fuck of me figure out what that might be. Occasionally, this owl head will appear in either of your two vents. When it does, all you have to do is put the mask on until it leaves. Mangle herself has a chance to appear in the hallway. As far as I can tell, she has no sound cues, so you have to constantly check for her yourself. When she's there, hold the flashlight on her until she leaves. Finally, we have the most soul-sucking, nutsack-tearing, butthole-puckering mechanic in the entire goddamn game. The Ghost. The Ghost can appear on any camera. You'll be able to tell because you can see her hand. When you see the Ghost, all you have to do is hold the light on the camera until it disappears. You might be asking yourself, why the fuck is that a problem? That sounds even easier than the owl. Hell, I almost guarantee you will never be able to see the cameras in your entire fucking life. Why? Well, as I'm sure you're aware if you've ever played a FNAF game before, when a character moves from one camera to another, it's very common for the camera to go black for a moment. This is done so that you don't see the characters teleporting out of sight. However, the Mangle moves so goddamn cocksucking fast through the cameras that they will be black for about, I don't know, 90% of the fucking night. Meaning that very rarely will you be able to check if the Ghost is on a camera. Could we stop? Could we stop? Literally, what the fuck am I supposed to do? She's moving around the camera so fast, I can't even fucking look to hold the light on her. I feel like this is unintentionally difficult, but it's actually so bullshit, it's not even close to fun. This is the main reason why I dislike Night 6 as much as I do. Dying because I couldn't find the Ghost because I can't see the fucking cameras for more than 0.3 seconds every 14 decades is not fun. It ruins the pacing of the game and destroys all immersion I had in the situation. But if you can manage to not get fingered by the Ghost, you'll survive to 6 AM and lure the Ghost into the Barrens. The Ghost grabs Paul Bear, revealing he himself is a costume, not an actual plush bear. Surprise, surprise. This should have been obvious. The Ghost tells Paul Bear she's going to kill us, but we quickly run up behind her while she's distracted and fucking gank her ass. Dead kids! Rah! Rah! The screen cuts to black. We learn 5 years later, Juniors would reopen after some significant rebranding, focusing on, quote, family fun and above all safety. A line that should be familiar sounding if you've played the official games. Finally, a character named Jeremy is asked when they're free to start the job. Let's pause. This twist is pretty damn cool. We saw an exact replica of the FNAF 2 office on Night 6, and now we learn that Jeremy Fitzgerald is being hired. Of course, knowing the official lore, Jeremy was the night guard in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and the family fun and above all safety is something the phone guy says in FNAF 2 as well, which would lead me to believe that the rebranding of Juniors was to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in the form of the pizzeria we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, using the toy animatronics and the layout we find in the basement. But with that final awesome twist, Juniors comes to a close. I've covered a lot of games made by the developers in the Five Nights at Freddy's Fanverse initiative. I've covered the fantastic Joy of Creation made by Nixon, the famous Five Nights at Candy's by Emil Mako, and I've covered the gorgeous One Night at Flumpty's by Groomer Jonachrome. For the most part, I've enjoyed all of these games, but there is still one game in the initiative I have yet to cover, Pop Goes by Kane Carter. Another incredibly well-known FNAF fan game with a lot of people having a sweet spot for it. Today, I'm here to find out why.
Stick around because I've got a lot to say about it. As mentioned, Pop Goes was created by Kane Carter and was released to the public on June 26, 2016. Immediately, it got a lot of recognition, with FNAF fan games definitely being popular at the time, but it was still new to find a game that remotely matched the quality of the originals. And Pop Goes 100% did. The game shares lore in continuity to the official Five Nights at Freddy's games. However, it does retcon everything FNAF 4 onwards, meaning in order to understand the lore, we have to think only about FNAF 1 through 3. With that key detail out of the way, let's get all around the cobbler's bench and right into Pop Goes. A lot of FNAF fan games like to have an opening cutscene, but not Pop Goes. This game will already get you on your toes by not even showing you the standard newspaper, just jumping right into night 1, wiping its balls all over my forehead. Fantastic. Something you'll notice immediately is the way that Pop Goes handles the office. It's honestly probably the coolest office I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. It actually comes out of this game harder than you gooners come out of the closet. While in the office, which is hard to even call an office honestly, you will be able to look 360 degrees all around you, with 4 different directions to look in, all serving a different purpose. Although I will admit one of them doesn't really have any reason for existing, but we'll get into that later. Starting directly in front of us, we have our cameras, which are controlled by our phone, and some colorful buttons. Since this is where we'll be spending most of our time, I'll talk about this a bit later. Turning to our left, we can actually see one of the animatronics, and it's at this moment it becomes apparent that we are not in an office, but are rather just in a giant-ass room in the restaurant. This character's name is Blake the Badger, but he's harmless on this night, so as I've already said multiple times, we'll talk about him later. Turn left again to look behind us, and we'll be able to see the actual fucking stage where all the characters are. Holy shit, my butthole just puckered and my penis just retracted up inside of my body. We are literally constantly next to almost every animatronic in the entire game. You might think that'll make just about everything in this game useless, since they're already pretty much free to grab up on us, but as you'll learn throughout this video, these guys have a very, how should I say this, retarded thought process. Finally, turning once more to the left, we can see a window to the parking lot, with a bird character standing outside. We'll talk about what he does later, but for right now, I want to talk about what actual purpose this window serves. On the bottom of the screen, you will see a panic meter. Naturally, throughout the night, it will rise, and looking at animatronics will cause this panic meter to rise faster. In order to make it decrease, you'll need to look to the right at the window. I guess looking outside makes you remember how much you enjoy touching grass. Just kidding. Being outside is scary, and it's summer right now, so it's really fucking hot. I'd rather die than go out there. Fun fact, as I'm writing this script, I'm not wearing a shirt because of how blazing hot it is, even though it's only 9:45 p.m. What kind of bullshit is this? Why is it so goddamn hot where I live? This shit is ass. Oh, and by the way, as I'm recording this, it's currently 11:48 p.m. and it's somehow gotten even hotter. Also, by the way, put your dick back in your pants. You're not going to see me shirtless. And stop imagining it too. I already know how weird you fucking freaks are. Yes, I read the comments. Behave. Anyways, if your panic meter increases all the way, you'll be unable to do literally anything. That includes turning to look in any direction, and Pop Goes will very quickly dig in your butt. Want to hear a really cool fact about this? Turns out I'm actually the most retarded person on the face of the planet Earth. The phone guy explicitly describes that if we're feeling panicked to look outside. I swear to you, I had no fucking idea that the window to our right was a window to the outside. I knew it was a window, but for some reason I couldn't tell that it was to the outside of the building. I thought it was just another room inside the building, and I think the reason I thought that was because the animatronic could be seen through it, and I didn't think that they'd place an animatronic outside. But that still doesn't make sense, because what I thought you had to do was look at camera 10, which is a camera out in the parking lot. While this does seem to decrease your panic, very slowly, I thought it was going to be impossible to beat this game because of how slowly it dropped. Again, keep in mind, I can see the crow animatronic in this camera, and it took borderline until night 3 for me to notice that yes, that window is outside, and by looking out of it, my panic will decrease a fuck ton faster. Looks like the panic meter don't exactly work very well though, bro. Like, look, I keep fucking jumping back up and shit. What am I supposed to do with this panic meter, bro? It like doesn't go down consistently at all. Dude, this is bullshit. What the fuck are you supposed to do? That's not possible. What the hell is that bullshit? What? What's the point of turning except to see? Like, what's the point of this? Like this area. Wait, that's the... Oh, I'm retarded. This is a fucking parking lot. He means literally... Guys, I'm actually fucking retarded. Holy shit, guys. I'm a fucking idiot. Oh my god. That has to be actually the fucking stupidest thing I've ever done in my whole life. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about our camera system. Looking at it at a first glance may seem a bit intimidating, but this game actually does a fantastic job at slowly introducing new mechanics. It's actually probably better at this than any other FNAF game I've ever played before. Let's just focus on what needs to be focused on during night 1 and ignore everything else until it becomes relevant. Obviously, you can switch through the cameras like any FNAF game, and the cameras in this game use no power. In fact, this game doesn't even have power to begin with, which I think is something we can all appreciate. The only other thing on the cameras we need to worry about is the room shutdown button. This button does exactly what you think it does, temporarily shuts down the power to a specific room. You'll notice you can only use this button on cameras that have this weird device on them, and if you can't tell what this is, it's a 3D printer. Why are there 3D printers here? Well, canonically, I'm pretty sure it's because the kids that come to the restaurant can print out their own animatronics or something like that. I don't really know. I was more focused on the phone guy talking about his boring ass life. I wasn't really paying attention to the actual story of the game very much. Where these 3D printers come into play during gameplay is when we talk about our boy, Pop Goes the Weasel. Yes, we are actually introducing the main character of the game on night 1, something quite a few FNAF games don't like to do until later nights. Pop Goes will leave his stage and head towards any room with a 3D printer, which, by the way, you can actually turn around and watch him leave via walking through the very room you're sitting in. Remember how I said the characters in this game make some pretty retarded decisions? Yeah, this is one of them. If Pop Goes' goal is to kill me, why doesn't he just do it? He's literally directly behind me. It would not be hard at all. In fact, the only time he does kill you is when your panic meter gets too high. So, if he doesn't kill you himself, how is he a threat? Great question, and one I'm going to answer because, no shit, it'd be a pretty shitty review if I didn't explain anything. Once Pop Goes enters a room with a 3D printer, he will attempt to print out a piece of a character called the Black Rabbit. It's literally just Shadow Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. In order to stop him, you will have to shut down the room he's in before he prints it. This will make the printer turn off and will make him leave to go find another one. After a few seconds, the power to the room will automatically come back on, so you don't have to worry about losing sight of the room forever. Pop Goes is completely relentless. The moment you shut down one room, it won't be long until he attacks another, which actually leads to a constant pressure gameplay loop. Typically something I would find unfun, but again, this game actually does it incredibly well, and I think it has everything to do with how well it introduces new mechanics. But back to Pop Goes. If you don't shut down the room fast enough, he will print out a piece of the Black Rabbit and walk back to the office. If you turn around, you can actually catch him placing the piece he printed out on the table behind you. If he prints out every piece, the Black Rabbit will become active and immediately kill you. I personally never died to the Black Rabbit, which goes to show either how easy this game is or how much fun I had playing it that I was able to find a rhythm. I should briefly mention how the phone calls in this game work, since they're also quite a bit different from most I've seen. Unfortunately, the phone guy is British. I know that should be given a warning in and of itself, but let's try to move past that tragedy. After getting the typical phone guy spiel, you're given 3 options for things to ask him, and whatever you choose will actually give you some branching dialogue, giving a small bit of replayability to each night. One option usually elaborates on a mechanic, another usually does some lore dumping, and the final is typically just some silly fun. Small details, I'm telling you. They're what make me appreciate games the most. But after beating night 1 in typical FNAF game fashion, we're tossed into a post-night 8-bit minigame to do some lore dumping. Except this game actually does it a little different than other games do. Each minigame takes place in the same area. This weird red maze-ass area. I have no idea what the floor is supposed to be made of, but let's ignore that. In this minigame, we play as Stone the Crow. This is the same character that stands outside of your window in the parking lot, by the way. Each character you play as in this minigame will have a different path you need to follow, and a different item you can interact with. This is the route you need to take as Stone. Following this path will lead you to a balloon boy chained up. Once you see him, the minigame ends. However, if you want to get one of the special endings in this game, there is something you need to do first. In each minigame, you will be able to find a secret character named Simon. Once you find him, you will be transformed into what I'm going to call a purified version of the character. Once purified, if you head over to the balloon boy, instead of the game just ending, you'll actually be able to free him from his shackles. This will happen in every minigame, just with different paths and characters. Additionally, if you interact with Balloon Boy's hat before you reach his room, a short cutscene will play. And by cutscene, I mean a single fucking drawing. But hey, that's cool, I suppose. As far as I'm aware, looking at these drawings doesn't aid in getting you a special ending, just some fun extra lore to find. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, except they both do the exact same thing at the exact same time in the exact same way, so they're basically only one character. Those characters being Saffron and Sarah the Squirrels, aka this game's gooning material. Get your Jergens out, or just use your hand if you have foreskin because your parents don't love you. Saffron and Sarah, like Pop Goes, can be seen on stage directly behind you. They too would prefer to do something incredibly complicated and retarded rather than just blow your back out from behind like any normal attacker would do in this situation. They introduce a new mechanic, your vents. As I'm sure you could guess from me saying that, these two travel through your vents in an attempt to drop down on you and sit on your face, which is exactly why I never stopped them. Anyways, you can toggle your vent camera on a majority of cameras around the building. Think of the map as a big roundabout these two have to go around. They start in camera 8, then go to 6, then 3, then 1, then 2, then 5, then 7, and finally arrive at your office. So you have plenty of time to stop them. But be warned, once they travel into a new vent, they will never go back under any circumstance. So really make sure you stay on top of them. Personally, I'm into femdoms, so I prefer to be on the bottom of them. But that's really not important. When you spot them in your vents, you must turn on your vent heater, which will cause lasers of all things to shoot down in the vent, blocking their path. The phone guy tells you that these lasers will stay on for 1 minute, except this game has a crazy twist, and the twist is that he fucking lied. The lasers actually only stay on for 9 seconds. Not 10, 9. Fuck me, I didn't want to see a nice round number anyways. Don't fret, you don't actually have to keep track and count in your head, as on your cameras a heat symbol will appear whenever your lasers are active, meaning that as long as you know how to use your eyes, you'll always be able to tell whether or not your lasers are on without constantly having to toggle vent to check. Kane could have easily not put this heat symbol in the game, and without changing any mechanics, it would have made it a fuckload more difficult, but Kane cares about video game balancing, and I really respect him for that. If the squirrels get all the way through the vent, they will appear in the vent directly above your head. If you look up, you'll be able to see them peeking down at you. Much like Pop Goes, these girls actually never attack you. Instead, what they do is snatch up your phone like a frat boy snatches up Easy Cooter. Obviously, without your phone, you won't be able to switch cameras, meaning Pop Goes will be free to build up the black rabbit and you'll be done for. However, it's much more likely that your rapidly climbing panic meter will get you killed first. Anyways, on to the post-night minigame. This time we play as Saffron and we're tasked with finding Toy Freddy. Very similar to last night, we can find Simon, become purified, and free Toy Freddy from his shackles. Oh yeah, and additionally can view another picture with some loud-ass music playing as well. Lore or something! Also, by the way, here's the path you need to take. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Blake the Badger. However, I first want to talk about a threat I haven't mentioned thus far, Stone the Crow. He actually has 2 different attacks, one that becomes active early in the game and one that doesn't become active until a later night. Both of his attacks are actually the most threatening and annoying out of any character in the entire game. Crazy how one character can have multiple ass-erupting problems that I hate. His early attack has him just be an annoying prick. He will occasionally appear on your cameras and block your entire view. This prevents you from seeing Pop Goes, which is obviously not great. But if that wasn't enough, when you look at him, your panic meter actually increases way faster than normal. And want to know the coolest part? The higher your panic, the more commonly he appears on your cameras. That's a fucking wombo combo if I've ever seen one before, holy shit. Leave my poor anus alone, it's had enough. In order to make him stop appearing on the cameras, you obviously have to lower your panic. Ironically, by staring at him out in the parking lot. Let's just pretend like that makes sense. Anyways, now I can talk about Blake the Badger, a character who is literally just fun. As I mentioned previously, Blake can be seen directly to your left. This, by the way, is the direction that is pretty much useless to look in. Along with seeing Blake, you can also see the door to the server room in this direction. If you look this way long enough, you'll see Blake walk into this server room. You can view the server room on your cameras where you can see Blake present. This camera is one of the reasons why watching him move real time doesn't matter, because you'll be checking the cameras consistently anyways. Blake has you play Simon Says. Hey, Simon! Like the guy in the minigames. I wonder if that's a coincidence. Once Blake is in the server room, he will set the monitor inside to a certain color. On your desk, you will see 5 different buttons, each with a differently colored circle on them. What you need to do is click the circle that's the same color as the monitor in the server room, and then press the Blake button next to your monitor to call him over so we can check if you chose correctly. When you call him, by the way, he will literally come right up to you. If you turn to the left, you will see him staring right at you, which kinda startled me the first time I saw it. If you got the colors right, he won't attack you and will go back to minding his own business. Get it wrong and you're obviously fucked. Want to hear another reason why looking to the left is not worth it? Well, if Blake happens to be there because he's checking on your color, if you look at him, your panic meter will increase drastically. So there is literally never a good reason to look to your left, ever, so just don't. Night 3's post-night minigame has you play as Sarah. I'm sure you can already guess what you need to do. Find Simon, become fearified, and find my wife Toy Chica and free her from her shackles, and then let her use those shackles on me so she can have her way with me. But let's leave Chica and I alone while you guys move on to Night 4. Oh yeah, and here's the path. Night 4's new threat is Stone the Crow. While yes, I've already established his camera blocking threat, that's not the only threat he has, as I've already mentioned. This is the night where his much more annoying problem arises. If you are to look out of the window for too long, Stone will turn his head towards you and, I'm not joking, make the most ear-piercing, skull-fucking degrading screech I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not lying. It's actually the loudest noise in the whole game, and it scared the fuck out of me every single time I heard it. Oh, for fuck. My goddamn ears, bro. When he turns his head at you, your panic meter will increase faster than anything else that causes it to increase. Like, I'm talking fast as fuck. Usain Bolt type shit. Obviously, turning away will cause him to stop staring, and you'll be able to look at him again to decrease your panic that he so rudely increased. This does bring up an interesting dilemma and will force you to come up with a new strategy when playing. You know that looking out the window for too long will cause him to look at you, but you also need to keep your panic empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. So you need to figure out a proper way to both deal with Popgoes, the squirrels, and Blake, while also looking out of the window frequently enough to not cause Stone to look at you, while also keeping your panic meter completely empty so he doesn't appear on the cameras. Because once your pattern breaks, it will be very difficult and stressful to get yourself back on track. Night 4's post-night minigame has you play as Blake. Here's the path you have to follow to get to Mangle, but remember to find Simon and purify yourself first. I'll never understand the attraction some people have to Mangle. I don't even see how sex with her would be fun. She's a fucked up mess of wires. Even if you could figure out how to get it done, you'd borderline have to be a contortionist in order to not get yourself injured while doing the deed. Anyways, on to Night 5. Night 5 doesn't introduce any new threat, just being a harder version of Night 4, so I'll use this time to talk about Simon and how he appears in the nights. That's right, Simon himself does appear in each night, however, I never saw him throughout my playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dexter Black, and that's because of how specific finding him is. Each night he will appear in a certain room at a certain time, only for a few seconds, which is why I never saw him. When you find him, you will need to click on one of your Simon Says buttons that corresponds to the color of his eyes. When you do, he will say something to you. I guess it being Simon Says wasn't a coincidence after all. On Night 1, he will appear in the arcade's vent camera at the 526th second of the night. That's right, it's actually that specific. His eye color will be red and he will say the following. Simon Says. On Night 2, he'll appear in the birthday room camera at the 116th second. His eyes will be pink and he'll say the following.
finding me. I'll tell you everything.
On night 3, he'll appear in the parking lot camera on the 472nd second. His eyes will be blue and he'll say this.
Oh, brother. He must be so fond of him.
On night 4, he'll appear in the staff room at the 342nd second of the night. His eyes will be yellow and he'll say the following.
Do you think you know who he is? The truth is behind this door.
And at night 5, he'll appear in the hallway camera at the 273rd second of the night. His eyes will be green and he will say this.
He doesn't want to remember. We can help him tomorrow.
Overall, a pretty cool bit of extra lore in a very fun and interactive way. Again, I'm in love with little details like this. Also, here's another fun fact. If you stare at Simon's screen in the extras menu for too long, your game will crash, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, onto the post-night minigame. Here you play as Pop Goes. Here's the path you have to take to find the worst FNAF character ever designed, Toy Bonnie. And as always, don't forget to find Simon and purify yourself. God, I fucking hate Toy Bonnie. He's the main reason why Five Nights at Freddy's 2 sucks as much dick and balls as it does. I know people have found a way to make 1020 mode not random, but fuck you. He's still a bag of dicks. Night 6 once again adds no new threats, just being the hardest non-custom night in the entire game, really amping up the game's difficulty. I want to talk about two things during this night. This game does probably the best job I've seen at making a challenging experience without being frustrating, janky, or awkward. This night is definitely hard, requiring you to be precise with your mouse, quick with your thinking, and requiring a lot of nerve control throughout. But never throughout my playthrough did I feel like the game was unfair or that there was too much RNG involved. This game is a perfect balance of challenging and engaging. I've truly never seen another FNAF game pull it off as well as this game has. Additionally, Simon can be found on this night as well. I didn't talk about it last night because the way you find him in this night is without a doubt one of the coolest things in the whole game. He'll appear in the station on the 273rd second of the night. You might be wondering what the station is, and the station is literally the room you are sitting in. Simon will appear on the table directly behind you. He leans in so close you can feel his breath on the nape of your neck. It might turn some people on, but it personally makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Anyways, his eyes will be white and he'll say the following.
He wants to save her, and I will make his wish come true. Thank you, Strings.
If you've done everything correctly in the post-night minigame so far, you'll be put into the 6th night post-night minigame where you play as the Black Rabbit. Finding Simon, you'll realize he looks different, appearing to be glitching as the purple guy, and upon purifying, you seem to become Spring Bonnie, implying that either Simon has been William Afton the whole time, or that Pop Goes has been trying to construct William Afton the whole time. Continuing forward, you find a man and kill him. This man being Fritz, or Jeremy Fitzgerald, the phone guy who's been talking to us throughout the nights. Hold the fuck up. The phone guy has been Jeremy Fitzgerald, aka the person we play as in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Again, keep in mind that anything that happens in the official FNAF games from the 4th game and beyond are not canon in Pop Goes. Throughout the game, Fritz talks about an accident he had at Freddy's, never going into specific detail as to what it was. I'm going to take a guess he was either the Bite of 87 victim or the Bite of 83 victim, since he also mentioned that he used to work for Freddy's. You might think that it can't be the Bite of 87 because we already know that that was a child, and Fritz mentions that the accident happened when he was a teenager. But again, remember that we learned it was a child in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which isn't canon to this game, so it could be up in the air. If you have a better idea, or you know I'm wrong as fuck, let me know in the comments. I love reading your guys' corrections. During the last night of this game, Fritz asks us a question. Would we forgive someone who did something terrible, given that we've known the person for a long time? Then, instead of getting to ask him a question at the end of the call like every other night, we're instead only given the option of selecting yes or no, with no response given after our answer. I'm going to assume that this hypothetical question is about William Afton after he did what he did to the children. Fritz mentions earlier in the call that he feels like William probably had a good reason to do what he did. Fritz knew William and didn't want to believe he killed the kids with no good reason. I think he asks us that question in an attempt to make himself not feel so alone in wanting to forgive him. After killing Fritz in the final minigame, one last cutscene plays out. We're back in our office and we watch as Simon approaches us and stares deep into our eyes, making us fall in love. No, I'm kidding. I mean, he does stare at us, but I highly doubt it's for that reason. And with that, we get the grave ending. As far as I'm aware, this game's version of a true ending. And that's where Pop Goes comes to a close. Overall, I actually love this game. Originally, going into it, I was nervous that this video was going to be another hit piece like Jolly, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be a very enjoyable experience. I truly think that this game has the best difficulty balancing of any FNAF game I've ever played. Each mechanic feels solid and has great synergy with every other mechanic, without having the game feel unfair and overwhelming while still providing a satisfying challenge. The story isn't too convoluted, and there's not a lot of garbage hoops to jump through to be able to experience it, which for someone like me, who dreads learning the lore in games, can really appreciate. Because of all of these reasons, I'm placing Pop Goes in my top 10 favorite FNAF games of all time. I honestly really enjoyed my time with this game, and I highly recommend all of you give it a try. You won't regret it. Also, I'm aware that Pop Goes is getting a remake, and I'm incredibly excited to review that when it comes out.
The FNAF Fanverse Initiative, an idea Scott Cawthon had that was so good. The ability to bring fan game devs of your games into a closer community and allow them to sell merchandise based off of your branding is an amazingly generous and incredible opportunity. Having amazing games come out of it, such as Joy of Creation, Five Nights at Candy's, and Pop Goes, each of these creators are very passionate in what they do, and it shows. Another game to come out of the fanverse is One Night at Flumpty's 3, the third game in an incredibly designed series. But as something that has become all too familiar with FNAF fan games, as previously seen in games like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and Dormitibus, the creators' morals and ethics of said games can be called into question. And sadly, the creator of this game, Jonachrome, had his turn on the chopping block that is the internet. Today, I'll be diving into Jonachrome's fantastic FNAF fan game series, all the goods, all the bads, and the disturbing accusations that had the light shined on them for all the public to see. Come with me as we explore the masterpiece of a FNAF game created by a deviant. One Night at Flumpty's 1 is what you'd expect from an old FNAF fan game. It's pretty much just a recreation of FNAF 1, but this game did it differently. Something I think a lot of people could agree with me on is that One Night at Flumpty's was ahead of its time. No other FNAF fan game was as well put together as Flumpty's was. You could argue Five Nights at Candy's was, but I'm not talking about candies right now, am I? As the title suggests, this game only features one night, but don't let that make you think it'll be a cakewalk. This one night is up there in difficulty with nights 5 and 6's from the normal FNAF games, and the difficulty increases by the hour instead of the day. Before I dive into gameplay, however, I want to talk about how amazing this game really looks. There's a lot to be said about Jonachrome, and I'll be diving more into his character at the end of the video. But Jonachrome is an artist, and a damn good one at that. Every single location in this game has so much character put into it, especially the office. Sure, there's a lot of dead things, but ignore what it is for a second and just admire how well done the 2D art in this game really is. Not many FNAF games go for a 2D approach, and I really wish more did because I think it looks amazing. Look at Playtime with Percy for another example. That game is 2D and it looks incredible. Then look at another completely flawless and probably the best FNAF game ever designed with zero competition, FNAF Shitpost. Another game with 2D art that is fantastic, and I definitely have no bias over that game at all. This game did something no other was doing at the time, and it has aged like a fine wine. But now, let's jump butthole first into the gameplay. As mentioned already, this game only has one night. But dear God, it's a long one. Each hour of this night is a minute and a half, making the full night 9 minutes long, which is a crazy amount of time for a FNAF game where you need to have good nerve control. Just like FNAF 1, you have a power system. However, it's only affected by your doors, so feel free to camp the cameras as much as you'd like without the worry of draining your power. which I promise you'll be doing often, as this game is going to rail you in the asshole with encounters, and you'll have to stay on top of each character's location. Speaking of the characters, who are they? Nice segue, Dexter. Thanks, Dexter. The first guy we'll talk about is obviously Flumpty, the main attraction. Flumpty acts both as the Freddy of this game and the phone guy. At the beginning of the night, he tells you that his name is Flumpty and that he is immune to the plot and can transcend space and time. He goes on to tell you that he kidnapped you and brought you here to be friends and that he's coming after you. And coming after you, he is. Holy shit. This guy moves at the speed of sound. Flumpty moves randomly across cameras with no pattern, and he can teleport wherever and whenever he likes. Which means, if you're unlucky like me, he can get to your office in about 15 fucking seconds after the night starts. That's awesome. I'm in for a shitty time, aren't I? I'm covering 3 games in this video? Can I get that confirmed? Hey, can you confirm that? Yeah? Yeah, alright, fuck me. 3 games in the first 15 seconds already has me stressing. I love this. If you're unable to see Flumpty on any of the cameras, that means one of 2 things. Either 1, he's on the broken camera, which I'll talk about later, or 2, he's at your left door. If he's at your left door, just close it and bada bing bada boom, he can't get in. But something you'll immediately notice is that, unlike FNAF 1, there's no windows, so you won't be able to tell when he's left by just sitting in your office. So you'll have to constantly be checking the cameras to see where he is. And when he moves as fast as he does, it can get overwhelming quickly. Let's talk about our next freak, birthday boy Blam, or just Blam as I'll be calling him. Blam works very similarly to Flumpty, except he attacks the right door and he can't teleport like a dick. He follows a set path to your right door. Just close it, watch the cameras to see when he leaves. I just queefed. That's all you have to do about him. Oh, and in case you're curious, he's also Usain fucking Bolt and moves around the building at Mach 30, so that's just awesome. The Beaver is up next on the chopping block, and yes, his name is just the Beaver. I guess Jonachrome gave up on names here, but that's okay. What does he do? The Beaver acts as this game's Foxy, which it honestly didn't even need because of how often you're checking the cameras, but who really cares? The Beaver is sitting on the toilet taking a big fat patty whacker double-decker dump and reading a newspaper with several tasteful stories in it. Next to the toilet, you'll see a roll of toilet paper. Throughout the night, the more you fail to watch the Beaver, the smaller the roll of toilet paper will get. When he runs out of toilet paper, the Beaver will sprint at your right door. Also, quick side note, the Beaver has knife feet. I don't know why, it's just something interesting to note. Who's up next, huh? Who do I have in my sights? Boom! Grunkfuck, Grunkfuss the Clown. Arguably one of the most popular characters to come out of this series. Grunkfuss is the first character I've mentioned who doesn't start at the beginning of the night. Instead, he starts at 4 a.m. I love this clown's mechanic. It's incredibly cool. I should mention that this game deliberately doesn't tell you how to play, and it doesn't describe how any of the characters work, leaving you to figure it out yourself. I love this idea, and it can lead to you feeling pretty smart when you find a small detail that can help you figure out how a character works, and Grunkfuss is a perfect example. Grunkfuss doesn't show up on your cameras. Instead, he is only ever visible inside of your office. As the night goes on, he will become more and more visible via a hole in the wall of your office. Well, that doesn't sound fair, I hear you say, and I usually agree, until you put your thinking cap on and realize there's a hint in this game that perfectly explains how Grunkfuss works. On camera 5, there's a hole in the ground with 30 eyes inside. That number is very important. Every time you lift your camera up, you'll notice that one of the 30 eyes have disappeared, and every time you pull your camera down, Grunkfuss becomes more visible. If his eyes reach 0, when you pull the camera down, Grunkfuss will grunk-fuck your shit up. I think this is such a cool little hint this game gives you to explain how he works. You could easily play through the whole game and never piece this together. This is something I really love when games do, and I'd really like to see more of it. But we've still got more to talk about, buddy. Let's move on to the Red Man. Red Man becomes active on hour 3 and starts on camera 3. You'll notice throughout the game up until this point that camera 3 has never been visible. That's because Red Man isn't technically visible on the cameras. Whichever camera he's on will be blacked out, which lets you know where he is. Red Man slowly moves from camera 3 to your left door where you'll be able to see him and close it. Just like the other door characters, you'll have to watch the camera for when he leaves. This brings me back to a point I made when talking about Flumpty. If Flumpty or Blam are on the same camera as Red Man, they too won't be visible, meaning there's a possibility you won't be able to find them, and a possibility that you'll shit your pants as I did when I couldn't find Flumpty because he was camping out with Redman. So that was fun. The final character I have to briefly mention is Golden Flumpty, and I say briefly because there's not much to talk about. Sometimes you'll see him in your office, and when you do, you have to quickly pull up the cameras. If you don't, a dead sandwich is what you'll be turned into. In terms of characters, that's all One Night at Flumpty's has to offer. This game can be brutally hard. Obviously, like any FNAF game with enough practice, you'll be able to beat this game like clockwork. But hot damn, your first run through might very well be pretty difficult, especially considering you're not taught how to do a goddamn thing. But that's the first game. I'd personally say that it's fantastic. But what if I told you the second game is even better? Let's waste no time and jump into it. One Night at Flumpty's 2 is visually just as great as the first. Each setting looks fantastic. The game is significantly harder than the first, mainly because there's much more to focus on. To start, this game's phone call actually explains the rules. Like a little bit. You're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error, but hey, it's still more than the first game gave us. The phone call this time around is a short song, which, that's just lovely, isn't it? The song explains if our lights are off, we're safe, and if they're not, we're about to get our cheeks spread apart so hard they rip off. So, why is the light so important? Well, let's do what we do best and go over each threat one by one. Let's start with Flumpty. As he was in the last game, he's pretty basic in terms of mechanics. Like in the first game, he teleports around wherever and whenever he pleases, so don't think for a goddamn second you're safe, because you're not. He's hungry for ass, and you got a whole lot of it. He a hungry bitch. If at any point you can't find him on the cameras, he will be right outside of your door in the hallway, and in a few seconds, we'll pop his head in and give you a blumpkin. Characters looking into your office actually brings up one of this game's central mechanics, which I think is really cool. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see an exposure meter. If at any point that meter fills all the way up, it's time for Flumpty and his friends to eat toast off your ass without the toast. When Flumpty peeks his head in, he will have his hands over his eyes to play a quick game of peekaboo with you. Be lucky that he's forgiving like this, because no other character from this point forward will be. While he has his eyes covered, your exposure meter will not increase. This gives you about half a second to turn the lights to your room off. After a few seconds, he will leave and you can turn your lights back on. But before we continue, let's go over what else happens when you turn your lights off. Let me quickly go over the camera and something I noticed about these games that I really like. Notice how in the first game, the camera didn't waste any power. Well, in this game it does, but it does it in a much more engaging way than it does in other FNAF games. Rather than just lowering an arbitrary number, you'll notice on the bottom of your screen you also have a laptop power meter, your laptop being your cameras. While your laptop is up, that meter will decrease, and when you put the laptop back down, the meter will slowly charge and increase again. I love this mechanic. It's still consequential to sit on your cameras, but it still keeps you in control. These games have such good balancing. I struggle to find other FNAF games to match in this department. If your laptop meter is to go completely empty, it will forcibly close and you'll have to wait for it to charge all the way back up before opening it. And when you do, you'll have to wait for the laptop to reboot. This may not seem like a very big deal, but when watching the cameras is as important as it is in this game, having to wait those 10 seconds can feel like an eternity. But back to turning the lights off. When the lights are turned off, you cannot access your cameras, and your laptop will not charge. This is one of those multiple ways this game keeps you from sitting alone in the dark. Something I think all of you chronic gooners should take note of. Blam Birthday Bitch Boy is next. He, like in the last game, works almost the same as Flumpty, moves around a set path, goes to your office, takes a sneak peek at your bits. However, this motherfucker don't play no games. No peekaboo for this guy. Once he's looking, your exposure meter starts to climb. This leads to you needing to watch the cameras and track his location, because even multiple small slivers over how godforsakenly long this night is will start to add up and lead to your asshole looking like a cave. Blam increases your meter faster than Flumpty does. Even though Flumpty is literally a chaos god of death, he increases your meter slower than any other character in this game. Something I think says a lot about his character. I'd say he's just a little harmless guy, but he also has canonically killed 1 billion birds with one stone. No, I'm not joking. Grunk Fuckass the Clown is also pretty similar to how he was in the first game. Psych! I fucking lied, bitch! Go look in the mirror at how fucking stupid your face is. You actually thought for a second I wasn't gonna lie straight to your stupid, dumb, ugly face, but I did. Anyways, Funko Pop the Clown can be seen crouched on camera too. Around 2 a.m. he will become active, with a hole appearing on your wall and a patience number appearing on camera too, and quickly decreasing. Once Grunkle Stan the Clown's patience wears thin, he'll pop his head through the hole in your wall and dramatically begin increasing your exposure meter. I'm talking Tyson Gay levels of quickness, and I say Tyson Gay instead of Usain Bolt because there's one character who increases it even faster. Eyesore is technically another character returning from the first. Remember the eyes that appeared in the hole on the floor that showed how many times you could flick up the camera before Fuckhead the Clown would ream you from behind? Yeah, that's him. That's Eyesore. Eyesore will start on camera 1, but won't be active until 4 a.m. Keep in mind, each hour in this game is long as fuck. He'll make his way to your office and peer in. When I tell you, the speed at which this bastard eviscerates your exposure meter is faster than the speed at which I bolt to the toilet after Indian food. I'm not lying. I suppose it makes sense given how many eyes he has, but like, damn! Don't let this guy eye bang you for too long, no matter how sexually attracted you are to it. The last returning character we have to bring up is Redman. But Dexter, what about the beaver? He fucking died. He fell into the toilet and fucking died. Are you happy? I didn't want to have to tell you, but you pulled my leg. Dick? Anyways, Redman. At random points during the night, warning pop-ups will appear on your laptop. If you're not in your laptop, it will be signified next to your camera button with a warning sign like the music box from FNAF 2. When you see this warning message, it will be accompanied with a loading bar. If the loading bar fully increases, you'll be as dead as disco. All you have to do is click cancel. If you lose to Redman in this game, I have no sympathy for you. You have to try and lose to this guy. What about new character? Well, there's only one, but he's pretty sick. The Owl. The Owl will appear on your cameras taking a fat-ass nap. Throughout the night, he will open his eyes and eventually leave the urinal he's perched on. When he does, you'll have to quickly check your vent cameras to see which vent he's about to assault you through. Once you know, you'll have to close the vent in your office in accordance with which side the Owl is attacking you from. If you don't, you guessed it, ask buffet and you're the main course. The vents don't waste any power, but only one of them can be closed at a time. So there's that. Additionally, you can close the vents even if your lights are off, which is incredibly generous and really just adds to the flow and pattern this game has. The final character I want to talk about is Golden Flumpty. So I guess I technically lied when I said Redman was the last recurring character, but fuck you. He works the same way as he did in the first game. Sometimes you'll see him in your office, either quickly turn the lights off or pull up your camera and he'll leave. Whoopity-doo, lore or something, I don't really know. That's all One Night at Flumpty's 2 has going for it. Well, it has a difficulty mode called Hard Boiled, which drastically increases the difficulty of the night, but it doesn't change any fundamental game mechanics, so I don't think it's worth diving into. One Night at Flumpty's 2 is such an enormous step up from the first, and that's saying a lot considering how amazing the first game really was. With the third game right around the corner, I can't wait to see what Jonachrome came up with. Oh, did I say right around the corner? Sorry, I meant 6 fucking years later. One Night at Flumpty's 3 released in 2021. Jonachrome made it clear he was never interested in making another Flumpty's game after 2, but the only reason he did is because Scott reached out to him for the Fanverse initiative. So what does 3 have to offer, and does it live up to the last 2? Flumpty's 3 is just like the last in one way. The art is phenomenal. Every single scene is fantastic and full of references. It makes the game very fun to look at. The office in this game is very frozen. You'll notice a thermometer in the corner of your screen. It's very important that you keep yourself warm and not let that meter reach empty, or you'll freeze to death like a bitch. You can go over to the furnace to have it slowly increase, and you'll need to be doing this throughout the night. How about the threats though? Returning from the last 2 games, we have Blam, who works very similarly to how he does in previous games. He'll move around the building in a set path and make it to your door, which in this game is really just a hallway. The cameras don't have power, so you should be camping them as often as you can. When Blam gets to your door is when we have to talk about a new mechanic, your camera. On the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a camera button with 20 uses. That's right, you can only use this camera 20 times throughout the night before it won't work anymore. So you better make sure you're keeping track of where every character is, because you don't want to waste any of these flashes. When Blam gets to your door, all you have to do is flash the hall and he'll run away. But be aware, there's no visual or auditory cue to signify that he's there, which is why watching the cameras is so important. Next, we've got another returning character, which by the way, there are no new characters, so I'll stop mentioning this. Anyways, the next character is Grunk Punk-Ass Slut Bitch the Clown. He does literally the exact same thing as Blam, but with one key difference. You do not want to flash him when he's in the hallway. The flash makes him scared and he'll pee his pants. That makes him embarrassed and he'll have to kill all the witnesses, and sadly for you, you're the only witness, so guess it's time to die. But being serious, while Grunkfuss is technically easier to deal with than Blam, he really makes you make sure you know where everyone is, because one false flash and it's game over. Next up on the chopping block, as I've said for the second time this video, is the Red Man. He becomes active at 1 AM and will make his way towards your furnace. On his furnace room camera, you'll see a warning telling you to stay away from your furnace. If you go to warm up by the furnace while this message is present, he'll eat your ass from the back, which I know some of you dirty freaks want, but for the rest of us normal people is something we'd prefer to prevent. I actually think this is a really nice mechanic. Something to keep you away from the only safe thing you have is super interesting. Knock knock, who's there? I don't really know, I don't usually answer my door, but we're talking about the eyesore next. He becomes active at 4 AM and actually can't be seen on the cameras. So how are you supposed to defend yourself? Well, lucky for you, you can actually see him in your hallway. Unlike the other characters, however, you'll actually have to flash eyesore twice to make him go away. And because your camera has a cooldown, this can lead to a deadly combo with Grunkussy. You'll need to make absolutely sure he's not in the hall when you go to flash eyesore. What about the owl? I hear you asking. Well, a better question would be, what about the beaver? Better yet, how about both of them, because they're both here in this game merged together as one in the form of the bee-vowel. Talk about a freak of nature, am I right? Chat, if I ever end up looking like this freak, please pull the plug, I won't be mad. Anyways, the bee-vowel starts at 2 AM and will appear on camera 3 in the hot tub. He will gradually climb out of the tub and crawl into your vent. This brings up the other side of your office where you can actually see the vent. This vent functions the exact same way the other door does. When you know the bee-vowel is in the vent, all you have to do is flash him with your camera and he'll go away. But this does lead to a split path that you'll have to watch just as much as the door path, which can become stressful as the night progresses. Finally, we have to talk about Golden Flumpty, who is just as uneventful as he was in the last two games. When you see him on your cameras, you can't pull down the camera unless you switch to another camera he isn't on. Otherwise, he kills you. And that's all the threats. Survive until 6 AM and the final game in the Flumpty's franchise is over. In all honesty, I think this game isn't nearly as good as Flumpty's 2. I think that might be because of the fact that Jonachrome Huh? What? What about Flumpty? I didn't talk about him? Oh, yeah, about that. Flumpty is pretty pissed that you survived as long as you should have, and is even more pissed at his friends for not being able to kill you. Being a god, Flumpty sets the time back to 12 AM, murders all of his friends, and comes to get you himself. I lied. We're not even close to being done. Let's talk about this game's second night, Flumpty Night. You'll immediately notice some new stuff, but I'll talk about them as they become important. In this night, after killing all his friends, Flumpty transcends space and time and is able to morph his body and appear in multiple places at a time. He replaces all of his friends and takes a majority of the mechanics of the night. Let's go over each Flumpty clone together. It can get a bit confusing, and this night is a clusterfuck, but I'll hold your hand and explain everything as best I can. And let me tell you, my palms are clammy. The first clone to talk about is Another Flumpty. Yes, his name is literally, quote, Another Flumpty, end quote. This guy is the exact same as Birthday Boy Blam. Fireside Flumpty replaces the Red Man. Spider Flumpty, aka fucking animated Flumpty, again, that is literally his name, replaces the bee-vowel. But something cool I want to mention about Spider Flumpty is that he is gorgeously animated. Like, look at his animation when he crawls through the vent. It's gorgeous. Now we need to talk about the Flumpty clones that have their own mechanic in this game. Except not really. All-Seeing Eye Flumpty acts exactly like Grunkfuck does in Flumpty's 2. On camera 6, he'll have a patience timer, and when it reaches 0, he'll appear in your office through a hole in your wall. Also, you'll notice on this night that an exposure meter literally slides in from the side of the screen during the night, and All-Seeing Eye Flumpty will increase it. You get rid of him by flashing your camera at him. This night is about to get a lot more insane, I promise. Flumpty.exe replaces what the Red Man does from Flumpty's 2. Occasionally, a program will appear on your camera, and if you don't cancel it in time, then it's time for an ass-eating buffet. Shadow Flumpty works just how Grunkinky does in Flumpty's 1. The more you lower your camera, the further and further through positions he gets in your office. Lower it too many times, and he's gonna go spelunking in your asshole. I'm talking pounding ass pickles. Door Flumpty is where the 2 extra doors on your office come into play. He'll appear on either camera 8A or camera 8B. You can stop him by turning on your laser doors to keep him out. Also, you'll notice you have door power at the top of your screen, so just something else you'll need to keep track of. Are you stressed yet? We're not done yet. While on your camera, sometimes you'll notice something really cool. Flumpty will fucking move the cameras 8A and 8B around to change which door that Door Flumpty attacks from. The first time I saw this while playing, I was freaking out. It's honestly such a cool idea that I've never seen done before. Finally, we have to talk about Virtual Boy Flumpty. Once 3 AM hits, if you look at your camera, you'll see a new section of the map that was never there before slowly lower from the top of the screen and add 2 new cameras to the game for you to keep track of. I want you to keep in mind, all the other bullshit I've already mentioned is still happening right now. Virtual Boy Flumpty will make his way to camera 10, which you'll see has a door power switch. If you let Virtual Boy Flumpty get into this room, he will flip the switch, permanently turning off the laser doors you use to keep Door Flumpty out. So how do you stop Virtual Boy Flumpty? Well, this is really awesome. You have to close another set of doors on the fucking cameras. I swear to God I'm smoking crack because this is insane. There is actually so much shit going on this night. It's so much fun to play once you get into a groove. This is something that Jonachrome does that not many other FNAF creators can replicate. Although all of this is happening at the same time, you will almost never feel like completing it is based on luck. Everything flows together so smoothly, it's just super fun to play. Midway through 4 AM, a new song will start playing and the true boss fight begins. This final stretch is so much fun. When the song starts playing, you'll notice every single bit of your UI start to change to completely random intervals constantly. However, all of the systems still work. Sure, you can't visually see where your thermometer is at, but it's still decreasing and you will still have to manage it. Flumpty sings a little song, and if you manage to get to 6 AM, the game truly ends. We get one last final cutscene where Flumpty finally lets us leave, and we see what the world has become while we've been trapped with him. Nothing but a wasteland, and we begin to question if escaping was even worth it at all. And the One Night at Flumpty's universe comes to a close. One Night at Flumpty's was one of the earliest FNAF fan games made, and I personally think it still holds up as one of the best in the world. Each game got better than the last, which is something that sadly doesn't happen with most series. I'm very glad that Jonachrome had such good attention to detail to make sure that the games never got stale. As much as I'd love to see more games from the Flumpty's franchise, I think it's best that 3 remains the final game, and I think Jonachrome thinks that way too. Flumpty's 3 finally showed us the extent of Flumpty's power with an amazing boss battle at the end, and he even honored his word by letting you leave once you beat him. This is such an incredible ending to such an incredible game, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think One Night at Flumpty's is as close to perfection as a FNAF game can be, and it truly shows. But of course, with the good comes the bad, and it's time to talk about Jonachrome himself and the accusations that were thrown at him. 8 days after the release of One Night at Flumpty's 3, a user on Twitter posted a twit longer stating the following. Hello, my name is unimportant in this matter and I'd rather stay anonymous. I love this community. I absolutely have been a part of the FNAF fandom ever since 2014. The point of this is to try to make it safer for everyone and minors. Don't go attacking Scott over this. He had absolutely no way of knowing who Jonachrome really is. I also strongly insist that minors stay within their age groups when meeting friends in the same fandom online, whether artists or not. With that said, this is my testimony coming clean about Jonachrome. After seeing the release of One Night at Flumpty's 3 and how Jonachrome has insisted on staying within the community and fanverse, I cannot stand by and allow him to continue being within this fandom, and I really should have come forward much earlier when I initially found out. I was involved with plenty of his group DMs from 2016 to 2018. A girl by the name of Emily was 13 to 14 at the time, and he came all out about his relationship with her. Within group DMs we've had, Jonachrome was already in his 20s. Charges cannot be pressed as Emily would need to do it herself as she would now be 19. I have evidence to prove this with links to all of it, and witness statements, and messages from Jonachrome himself. This man should not be praised at all, and I hope this helps people see him for what he really is,
and why he should be removed altogether from any community he has a high stance in. It can be gathered that Jonachrome stated he was dating this girl, but was not going to do anything sexual until she was of legal age, which some would constitute as grooming. In my personal opinion, none of that is as damning as John's own messages. In one message, he flat out admits his plan to marry Emily, who, keep in mind, is a child. Jonachrome also mentioned how they'd been dating for 2.5 years, and considering how she had her date of birth set at 2002, this would have made her about 14 years old when they started dating. It's also very clear that Jonachrome knew that what he was doing was wrong, as in 2017 he was very concerned about the net neutrality laws, which he thought would cause conflict with his being able to communicate with her. The twitlonger wasn't up for long when Jonachrome responded. The title of his response stated that both he and Emily knew that this would happen at one time or another. His response reads, "Well, if my statement means anything, here it goes. I'm not a child groomer and I'm not a pedophile. Plain and simple. I wouldn't dream of manipulating, abusing, or exploiting anyone, much less minors. And the twitlonger has no evidence to suggest that I did. It comes across as spiteful to me more than it comes across as a post made out of legitimate concern for anyone's safety. That said, I can't deny that the screenshots are real. When Emily and I met, dating wasn't even a consideration for obvious reason. We were friends who got along really well. My first relationship was with someone my age, which only lasted a few months because we didn't communicate very well. That was when I started questioning what was really important in a relationship and what actually makes two people compatible. I realized that Emily and I share the same religious beliefs, we have similar sense of humor, there's a lot of overlap in our interests and hobbies, and we could both comfortably talk about a lot of things. We both felt like maybe we were meant to be together and were just born at the wrong times. We started talking, making it clear right away that there would be nothing sexual about our conversations and that we wouldn't meet in person until she was at least 18. We enjoyed each other's company, just talking and hanging out. Occasionally we'd watch movies together. For a long time, I didn't see the harm in it. I always put her needs before my own, always claiming to do what was best for her, and in a way, I thought I was saving her from experiencing the same heartbreak I did. This year, 2021, would have been the year we met in person, with her age at 19. But this was also when I learned she was starting to have doubts about our relationship. She knew I didn't mean any harm, while also saying I had effectively prevented her from exploring other romantic options by approaching her when I did. I'd like to say I knew better, but until that moment, I kinda didn't. I'd thought I'd done everything right, and I gambled on the assumption that if we were meant to be together, it wouldn't have mattered in several more years. But the reality is, I didn't give her enough time to grow, and I shouldn't have even entertained the idea. It's a mistake I've made the one time, and I'll never make it again for as long as I live. For anyone who wishes to hear the victim side of the story, Emily and I are on good terms, and she's planning on making her own response to this as soon as she can. Regardless, I was wrong for pursuing a relationship with her. I can't change the past, but I hope that my story can at least serve as an example for others. Please, whether you're an adult or a minor, don't make the same mistake I did. You might have the best intentions and the utmost confidence in a potential relationship with someone out of your age range, and you might not see any red flags, but that's no excuse. It's not worth it. Minors should be especially careful in an online space because there are people out there who want to take advantage of it. This could have ended a lot worse. Stay safe. Later after that, Emily responded herself, and her response reads, "Jonachrome is not guiltless in this, as I'm an adult now, I'm completely aware of that. But he is genuinely a kind-hearted person who just did something to himself that he shouldn't have. As a minor at the time, of course I was super dumb and naive, but as an adult, Jonachrome was 100% responsible for his action. He has apologized to me several times, and I truly still believe he's a good person. We even talk on good terms even though we're separate. But he has recognized that he fucked up. So please, as the victim, leave the man alone. Let me clarify. He has never tried to solicit anything from me. He has never asked me to do anything I didn't want to. It was not good to consider us having a romantic relationship when I was very explicitly not old enough. But keep in mind, we've always been friends. Jonachrome is easygoing, fun to talk to. We used to watch movies together and talk about what we liked about them. We used to draw cute pictures for each other. We used to talk about the games we'd like. Morally, it was wrong to have romance between us, but it was innocent too. To say that it was grooming is where it becomes gray, because I feel like it was definitely unintentional somehow. That sounds like I'm confused, but I know why that is. If he had malice intent, he would have been much more persistent than he was. But no, he's not dangerous whatsoever. If Jonachrome attempts something like this again, yeah, I don't think I could trust him. He has done something awful, but that doesn't mean he himself is awful. What matters is how he moves on. if he's learned from this to know not to go any further from what he did to me. I was the one who confronted him about how our relationship would cause too many problems as an adult, and that's why I broke ties. Over those 6 years, I can say confidently that I care about the man's well-being. I don't want him to suffer. Let me say this again. Legally, he has not committed any crime. He's shown no clear intent to harm me, nor has he sent any harmful content to a minor. He is innocent in that respect, but that doesn't mean I'm excusing it. I'm just saying I, the victim, am okay. I'm also aware that no sexual stuff until legal is wrong and gross, because that does constitute as grooming. But there was still genuinely a relationship between us. Not romantically, but a friendship that we had. I can confidently say Jonachrome was a good friend. Yes, there was romance. It wasn't good by any means. He and I both knew there was something wrong with it, but I tried to pretend that it wasn't there. But please do not harass him. I can tell he's doing better because he talked to me before this mess got out. As for the person who exposed Jonachrome, I do not wish to be involved in this. I do not care about this anymore. I've moved on and so has he. If I am his only victim, then don't make any more accusations. I know this situation better than anyone. To everyone, don't say, I'm sorry this happened to you, because Jonachrome is already sorry, and to me, that's enough. I don't need your sympathy. Spread my response so people know what actually happened. As an adult, I'm not pressing any charges against Jonachrome, and I truly hope he's living his best life. He's been seeking therapy, and I do hope he'll make it out alive in this. His multiple apologies to me are proof of his self-improvement. I'm hoping this is enough. I do not want to make another statement, and frankly, I'm pissed that it even came out because he's hopefully not going to do this again, and I'm not traumatized from it. If he does it again, go ahead, talk about it. Otherwise, leave us alone. Jonachrome eventually made one more statement, which is way too long for me to cover in this video, but he basically says that he didn't groom Emily, because grooming requires sexual intent, which he claims he never had while in the relationship. John had been gone for years, but has actually, as of writing this, released a video on his gaming channel 3 weeks ago. He says he's been in therapy and is looking forward to working on more projects. As far as I'm aware, we still haven't heard from Emily or the anonymous person who brought this to light, but everyone has seemed to move on and they have accepted their faults and took accountability. While what Jonachrome did was wrong, no doubt about it, I truly think he's good at heart. I and many others all hope that this was a one-time thing, and I hope that this was a very clear wake-up call to never do something like this again, and it appears that that is the case. I and many others are excited to see what Jonachrome has in store for us, even if it has nothing to do with the One Night at Flumpty's series. What's the best Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever made? I think there's a few answers that could really give a valid argument. Maybe you think it's One Night at Flumpty's. Maybe you think Pop Goes. Or maybe... maybe you're super wrong and think Five Nights at Candy's 2. God, I fucking hate that stupid game so much. It's so goddamn boring and repetitive. I'd rather stick my dick in a toaster than play it. But hey, that's probably a video for another day. I should mention that the title of this video says the best FNAF fan game, but what that really means is from a gameplay standpoint. How fun is it to actually play? Maybe after hearing that, your answer has changed. The game we'll be covering in this video is, in my opinion, the best FNAF fan game from a gameplay standpoint that has ever been made, The Joy of Creation, Storyborn. Fun fact, Markiplier also agrees with me on this point.
I'm not even lying about this. This was amazing. This is by far the best Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever made, just from a gameplay standpoint. And I'm only speaking from a gameplay standpoint.
So yeah, Markiplier and I are basically best friends. Mark, if you're watching, best friend, leave a comment that just says, "Peep." That way everyone will know that we are canonically best friends. Thanks, my boy. Before we begin, I'd like to greatly apologize for my lack of videos in the last 2, probably 3 weeks as of the time of this going up. I just got done moving to a new city and starting my new full-time job, so I have not had any free time. But I'm finally back in the groove, and I have a set work schedule that won't change, so expect uploads to be more frequent now. I plan on releasing 1 video a week on the White channel. Don't quote me on that, but I will definitely try my best to keep it up. Also, big news, we have a community Discord server now. Hooray! A while back I asked you guys in a community post if you wanted a Discord server, and the majority of you said yes. So I hunkered down and actually got one created. It probably isn't the best, but with your guys' suggestions, I'm sure we can make it a place where we all want to hang out and chat with each other. You can join using the link in the description. In the last video, I asked you all what your favorite monster from the web of cogs and oil was. My favorite comment was this one by Ads the Flareon. They chose the corpse, and while my favorite is the trickster, I really like the thought process behind this answer. Flareon says that they're so desensitized to animatronics that the machine isn't even on the table for favorite. They go on to say how out of place the corpse feels and how that alone makes it the creepiest. Jesus, would he just get to the topic of the video already? Yap, that's all this bozo does. Listen, I hear you. You don't need to be a dick. Let's get to the video. The Joy of Creation story mode is, as I'm sure you already know, not the first game in the Joy of Creation series, but let's all be honest with each other, it's easily the first one that's actually enjoyable to play. The original Joy of Creation might actually be the most boring experience of all time. It consisted of you sitting in a chair, spinning in a circle, and flashing your flashlight at everything you see for an infinite amount of time. That's right, there wasn't even a time system. Story mode, however, is absolutely amazing, so let's get into it. The game opens with a cutscene. We play as an adult named Nick Cawthon. Recognize that last name? Well, you should, and don't worry, I'll be talking about it in a bit. Nick walks up to an old house in the middle of the woods and recounts how long it's been since he's last been there, insinuating that something terrible happened inside before. We get a flashback detailing the start of what happened, and we're shifted into the point of view of a new character named Michael. Michael wakes up in a basement. We find out it is in fact not Michael's basement, and is instead Scott Cawthon's? What the fuck? Regardless, Scott asks Michael what he's doing in their house. Michael states that he doesn't know, and a child version of Nick convinces Scott and Val, who is Scott's wife, to let Michael stay the night at their house. Absolutely, positively, possibly one of the worst plays I've ever witnessed in my whole entire life. You found a guy in your basement, talked to him for 3 minutes, got a solid 0 answers from him, and allowed him to stay in your house overnight while your wife and child are inside. Absolutely brilliant. This is when we enter the first, what the game calls, memories. I can't call them nights since all of the challenges we will play through actually happen at pretty much the exact same time. For Memory 1, we are in a bedroom in a crib, where we play as Nick again, this time as a child. We wake up in the middle of the night during a thunderstorm, and Michael starts talking through Nick's baby monitor, effectively acting as the phone guy of this memory. Michael explains to Nick that there are monsters trying to get him, and explains in detail how to fend them all off, explaining that at 6 a.m., the monsters will all go away, and we're thrown into the first challenge. Unlike in most FNAF games where you slowly are introduced to each animatronic throughout the nights, adding more and more stress as it goes on, Story Mode opts to do something different. Story Mode throws essentially every animatronic on your nuts all at once. This memory has Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy in it. I'll now go over all of their mechanics. Before I dive into the character mechanics, I'll start by mentioning the lamp. Behind you there is a lamp. By turning it on, you calm yourself down. Having the lamp off for too long will lead to you having intense visual and auditory hallucinations before inevitably losing the run. Now, I'll start with Chica since she's by far the easiest to deal with. Chica comes from your closet. There will be a noticeable audio cue when she opens the closet door. When she does, you'll have to turn off your lamp and wait for her to go back into the closet. Personally, I didn't know Chica swang that way, but I think it's pretty sick. Next, I'll go over Bonnie. Bonnie comes from your bedroom door. He will make a notable audio cue like Chica. He will knock on the door 3 times. When you hear this, you'll need to be quick, because you only have so long to react. When you hear the knocks, you'll have to quickly shut your lamp off and lay down in your crib. I should mention that laying down is a mechanic, and if you lay down while Chica's in your room, she'll kill you. After laying down in bed, Bonnie will slam your door open, look around, and then leave the room again, which tells you that it's safe to get back up and turn your lamp back on. Bonnie has this really weird mechanic. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's intended. However, a lot of the time, I'd say about 50% at least, when you hear Bonnie knock, he'll never end up coming into the room, which caused me on multiple occasions to shut the lamp off and lay down, only for the sound of Bonnie coming into the room to never play, meaning I end up laying down for way longer than I should, which pretty obviously fucks me over. Next, we'll talk about Freddy. Freddy appears at the window next to your crib. When he does, all you need to do is close the curtains to prevent him from seeing you. After a few moments, you'll hear a quiet sound cue letting you know he's left, and it's free to open your curtains again. But what if you hear Bonnie knocking or Chica coming in while you're holding off Freddy? Well, I'll tell you, you'll just get bread in the butt. So when you shart Bonnie's jizz on the toilet after being bread in the butt, we can talk about Foxy. Oh my god, Foxy. Foxy is under your bed like your weird uncle. Occasionally, you'll hear him scratching his hook on your bedpost. Well, at least, that's what Michael says that he's doing. I personally subscribe to the belief that he's scratching his hook on his big fat stupid balls. When you hear him doing this, you know that he will soon be attacking. A while after the sound cue, you will be able to see Foxy's hook on the back of your bed. When you do, you know you don't have much time left until he attacks, so quickly turn off your lamp, lay down, and close your eyes. Oh yeah, forgot to mention you can close your eyes while laying down. It's just used for Foxy, which is why I didn't say anything. Repeat this ass cycle enough times and congrats, you've beaten the first memory. Only 4 more left to go. The second memory takes place in the living room of the house. In this memory, you play as Scott's wife, Val. We start with a cutscene where Scott tells Val that he's going to make sure Nick is okay, since both of them are pretty uncomfortable with Michael staying in the house, which bodes the question, why the fuck did you even let him in? Regardless, Scott leaves and Val is left alone. This game mode is honestly probably my favorite. I personally feel it is the most terrifying out of the rest. In this memory, rather than being confined to one area like normal FNAF games, you're freely able to move around. Just like in the last memory, you have to survive until 6 AM against all 4 main animatronics. Michael tells us that we're fucked and to just hide. Thanks, Michael. Very helpful. Since Michael was no fucking help at all, allow me to explain what it is you're supposed to do on this night. Let's start with Foxy and Freddy. These two act identical to one another, each come down the hallway on one side of the living room. You can check how far away they are by turning the TV on while watching their cameras. Yeah, for some reason Foxy and Freddy have cameras mounted on their faces or something. I'm not really sure, but we don't question it. You can stall one of them at a time by holding down a button. Somehow. I don't really know, guys. I really like this memory, but this part actually makes no sense. Please bear with me. Get it? Bear. Like Freddy. Like Freddy, because Freddy's like Freddy Fazbear. Like he's a bear. Bear with me. Do you get it, guys? Guys, do you get because he's like a bear? You'll notice that Foxy and Freddy both move at the same speed. So if you don't begin stalling one of them, they will reach your room at the same time, which will mean immediate death for you. How do you keep them out? I hear you asking. Well, guess what? You don't. That's right. The animatronics in this night will literally enter the room you are in and try and find you, so you'll need to hide from them when they open the door. The way you hide from Foxy and Freddy is by hiding right next to the door that they'll be opening. The only problem with this is that when you're standing next to one door, you're right in the line of sight for the other, meaning that if you're hiding from Freddy and Foxy opens the door, he'll see you and promptly kill you. This is why stalling one of them is super important, as you'll be able to control and create a pattern at which they will come to the doors. Now let's talk about Bonnie. Along with the 2 doors that Foxy and Freddy come from, there are also double doors to the living room as well. I really have no idea why there are so many entrances to the living room. This house is a fucking maze. Bonnie doesn't have a camera, so you can't watch him directly. Instead, you'll have to walk over to the double doors and look through the keyhole to see how close he is. Once he gets close enough that you'll be able to smell the grease on his fuzzy nutsack, you just have to hide on either side of the double door and wait for Bonnie to arrive and close the door. Which brings yet another issue. When you're hiding from Bonnie, whichever side of the door you're on will leave you vulnerable to either Freddy or Foxy, so you'll really have to balance and know where Foxy and Freddy are at all times. It's the reason why I really like this memory. I really like micromanagement in games that are both hard but fair. This is why I think 1020 mode in FNAF 2 is such bullshit, because it's actually just not fair, especially Toy Bonnie. Toy Bonnie is the reason why it took me 14 hours to complete that stupid fucking mode. If you want me to make a video talking in detail about why I hate that mode specifically, let me know in the comments below. With Bonnie, Freddy, and Foxy being gone over, the only character left to talk about is Chica. Chica is easily the weakest character in this night, very similar to last night. Chica will randomly appear next to one of the windows in the living room. You'll be able to tell because she starts growling? What? She's a fucking chicken. Why would she growl? Whatever, that doesn't matter. When she does, you'll have to get up from the couch. I should have probably mentioned that when you look at the TV to check on Freddy and Foxy, you have to sit down on the couch. I didn't think it was important when I was writing that part of the script, but I just remembered while writing this part, and I'm honestly way too lazy to go back and edit that part of the video to add one sentence. So instead, I opted to add in a whole nother section just to explain why I didn't explain that part of the game before, arguably padding for runtime, even though this video would have been well over 15 minutes without it. Hopefully you enjoyed this section of Dexter Over Explains. Anyway, when you hear Chica growling, you'll have to stand up from the couch and not move until you hear the growling stop. Once you do, you're free to move again. If you move, Chica will jump scare you, which actually doesn't kill you until the final hour. Instead, it will just send you back to the couch and you won't be able to check the cameras for a while. Chica is easily the weakest part of this memory, as previously stated. She just feels so shallow compared to the other three. I know the other three all do the exact same thing, but they do so in a way that feels interesting. They do so in unison, as even though they do the same thing, they all work together in a way that keeps up the intensity all night. Chica just feels so out of place. After 6 a.m., this memory is over and we can move on to the next one. The next memory takes place in the office where you play as Scott Cawthon himself. This memory starts with Scott going to check on Nick, but of course, we both know what Nick and Val are going through at the moment. Now it's Scott's turn. Scott sees Freddy and starts running. I'm talking haul assin'. His house starts going batshit crazy and Scott hides in his office. He listens to a tape he left himself on how to defeat the animatronics that he made. I try to wrap my head around this section and the lore implications behind why he was leaving himself recordings, but I'm honestly too tired and way more focused on the gameplay in this game. This night is okay, I guess. It's interesting at the least, and it's very clearly just a large improvement from the first Joy of Creation game. Instead of just spinning in a circle and flashing your light when you find animatronics, you actually instead have to actively search for each animatronic. Let's start with Freddy, since he's both the easiest to deal with and the weirdest overall. Freddy can appear in any of the 4 entrances to the office: the front door, the window, the other window, and the closet. Just like the living room, this memory is free roam, so you'll move around to find the animatronics. When you find Freddy, just flash him with your flashlight and he'll leave. Something very interesting about Freddy that I should note: if left unanswered, Freddy will not kill you throughout the memory. Rather, he acts as a check for the end of it. If you reach 6 a.m. and Freddy is in one of the locations where you could find him, he'll kill you, so you have to make sure that you're really on top of him. I'll talk about Foxy next. On your desk you'll find 3 monitors with cameras. It's been so long, really starting to feel like classic FNAF now. You can look through the cameras on these monitors to find Foxy. When you do, all you have to do is look at him on said cameras. Eventually he'll have a seizure and leave. That's it, pretty simple. But of course, the characters in this game tend to like to work together to make your life more difficult. So that brings me to Bonnie. You can also find Bonnie on the cameras. However, if you see Bonnie on the cameras, make sure not to look at him directly. If you do, he'll punch the shit out of your camera, and you'll no longer be able to look at it for the rest of the memory. Instead, you have to go to the location corresponding to which camera you saw him on and flash him with your light to make him go away. Now we can talk about Chica, who, unlike the last 2 memories, is actually my favorite. So, there's this giant fucking hole in the wall of your office. I don't know why. You also don't know why, so we won't question it. Chica will try to fit her big fat hairy ass through it slowly, and I do mean slowly. Slow as fuck. So slow. Once she begins to wriggle and writhe in your hole, pause. Once she begins to shake on your hole, pause. Fuck. Once she begins to force herself through your hole, pause. God damn it. You know what? Once she starts to move, you have to get up and find 3 cupcakes hidden around your room. Once you do, she'll leave. These cupcakes can be hidden in drawers, behind posters, and my favorite, in the fucking garbage. Since it may take you a bit of time to find these cupcakes while working on dealing with the other animatronics, if you look at Chica, she will stop moving, giving you more time to look for the cupcakes. Congrats, you little stinker. Once you hit 6 a.m., if Freddy is gone, you're free to move on to Memory 4. Memory 4 is by far the most different and intuitive. I will say, I'm not super sure how it works, so I'm sorry if my explanation is god-awful. In fact, since I'm so nervous I'll be god-awful, I'll let my best friend Markiplier that I mentioned earlier take it away. It's totally gonna be him giving a detailed explanation of this memory, and totally not just me doing a montage edit of his playthrough of this memory with a little bit of commentary. Mark, please don't copyright this, we're best friends.
My name is Markiplier. It's time to go into the basement. Whoa.
Kids! Are any of you there? I found your note. Daddy's here. You must be really scared, but I'm here. I created you. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy. How is this happening? What are you? What are you?
Ow! Ah, good. Yes, you put me in the shitty toilet. Oh, good. Thank you for that. Why is this in my basement? Oh, okay. All right, then. Am I not going to get any information about this one? Am I just going to be left to my own devices? There seems to be a lot of 6 on the walls here. Oh, hi! Hello? Who are you? Maybe I got to get through the door. I'm going to try to sneak over to the bathroom again. Why did I come in here? I didn't need to come in here. Oh! Ah! We come from the fire! I need a cupcake, I need a triangle, I need a swirkly-doo, I need a roll. I don't know what any of those are. Ah! I am in the furnace! There must be like... Oh, what the fuck? Okay, I got a hook. Oh, okay, that's in the furnace now. Well, that's good to know. No? Alright then. Yee, okay. Nope, you're still there. Okay, that's a problem. Yeah, I'm right there. Okay, got it. It's gone quiet. What? How does that make sense? We've got 4 more to go, and that one took a while. Many shapes, all similar, but different. Oh, it's a code thing, isn't it? Alright. Ah, wait, okay, the numbers coincide with the number of creatures. 9632. I'm not sure I'm too happy about this, but there we go. So, what? Hey! Oh, okay! Oh boy. Oh, hi. Okay. Eat doop. Be doop. Be doop. Oh, that's not good. Oh god, it's a code. Of course it's over there. I don't know the code for this one. Bonnie with 4. So Freddy had 3. Bonnie 4. Foxy 2. As it leaves Chica with 1, right? Oh, I see. Okay. They're colored. Okay. Chica first. Foxy second. Ooh. What? Okay. Oh. Oh, I can close it behind me. Alrighty then. Got the key. I don't know! Okay, where am I now? Oh. Pressing forward because I got nothing better to do and I have a funny feeling I'm gonna die. Okay, that's... keep going. Okay, don't look back. I'm not gonna look back. Why would I look back? Okay, I looked back. I don't know what that did, but I did it. Ah! Ah! That's why you don't stupidly look back. All right, number 2. Oh, that was number 3. Oh, we act, we posed, we played, we stopped, we stared, we scream. Hi, Golden Freddy. Oh, he remains. Oh. What do I do about this? Oh, hi. What the fuck? Oh, hi. Oh my god. Okay. Holy shit, I saw that move, man. Ooh. Oh, no door! Oh, we're in no door land. I got a bad feeling about this. Oh, everything's gone. Excuse me. Hello. Oh, it's his computer. Hey, I made it! Simple tricks of the mind or something more sinister? I don't know. I don't know what that means! Bye-bye!
Wasn't that sick? Thank you, Markiplier. Truly my best friend of all time. Finally, it's time to talk about the final memory of this game, which takes place in the attic. In this memory, you play as Scott again. Michael beats your shit up and ties you to a chair in the attic. He tells you that you're gonna burn and die, because fire in Five Nights at Freddy's is like beans on toast to British people. I don't know if I'd call them people though. Gonna be real, don't really give a shit what Michael has to say. I'm much more concerned about the fire in my goddamn house. In this night, you go up against 2 endoskeletons, Golden Freddy, and The Creation. Oh my god, Creation! Like the joy of creation, that's the name of the game. Isn't that so cool? Oh, that's so fucking cool. I'm gonna scrub my nuts on a cactus. Anyway, The Creation is the coolest part of this memory, so I'll cover it last. Let's start with the poopy ass Golden Freddy. Unlike other memories, surviving isn't enough to complete it. Instead, you actively have a task to complete. In this case, you have to find Golden Freddy on your cameras 12 times and shock him. Once you do, you finish the memory. Sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? Wrong, you fucking idiot. It's actually pretty bullshit. Wanna know why? Because of The Creation. But I'll get to the poopy ass Creation in a minute. First, I have to talk about the stupid bumbling endoskeletons. So as I was double checking their mechanics, I learned that the endoskeletons are actually called the Fallen. Pretty cool, I suppose, and typing the Fallen is way easier than typing endoskeletons over and over again, so that's what I'll be calling them. In your cameras, you can switch from the house cameras to the attic cameras. It's on these attic cameras where you can see the Fallen. Inside of the attic, there are 2 large doors. Each Fallen will come from one of these doors. When you hear their enormous fat asses trampling down the hall, just make sure you close the door on the correct side of your attic to not have your ass blasted. I should also mention that Golden Freddy can appear in your office all transparent like. I don't really know what happens if he does this, as every time I saw him I quickly looked away out of habit from FNAF 2. Now we can get to Poop Dog, aka The Creation. The Creation will start in the basement of your house. As the memory progresses, the Creation will make his way through the house and to the attic where you are. Now, I know just by looking at him, you may be thinking, God damn, that robot is really hot. And I agree. However, this is not the character you're going to want to rule 30 for you. He'll bend you like a contortionist, but we both know full well that you can't bend like that, so you'd probably just end up dying. On your cameras, you'll see these 4 markers that represent doors or barriers. As the Creation moves, he will break his way through these barriers in an attempt to get to you. You can use your shock to send him back a phase in the cameras, but this brings up an issue. Your shock has a painfully slow recharge time, and if you flash the Creation, then you won't be able to flash Golden Freddy to win. Finding the perfect balance between flashing these 2 is key to defeating this memory. Once you've found and flashed the 12th and final Golden Freddy, the attic memory will be completed. As far as gameplay goes, that's where the Joy of Creation story mode comes to a close. There's multiple other things along with an enormous timeline to dissect, but I'd rather die. I like talking about how the game plays, and in that case, Joy of Creation story mode is top notch. Every single memory plays completely differently, and I think this is the main reason why it's so good. With other fan games, and even the originals themselves, you quickly understand what you need to do and can then begin to come up with strategies that allow you to not use certain intended parts of the game. For example, FNAF 2. In FNAF 2, there are a lot of cameras. Like, a lot. However, you only ever need to use 1. That's not very interesting when you think about it. You actually have no good reason to ever look at any of the other cameras in the game because the music box is all that matters. Same goes with FNAF 1. The only cameras you have to look at are the right corner cameras to make sure Freddy stays put, and occasionally you'll have to check on Foxy, but if you're playing correctly, you don't even have to look at Foxy in order to win. The Joy of Creation story mode switches up the gameplay loop every night. None of the nights are terribly complex, leaving out the attic, but since you have to learn something new each night, that's not something I have a problem with. I think if you were to take one of these memories from this game and turn it into a standalone game, I wouldn't like the game very much, because repeating formulas just isn't fun in any game. Don't keep repeating yourself, or if you do, make sure that it's repeated in a way that's interesting. For example, Undertale. While that whole game is based around an RPG battle mechanic, every enemy has unique and different attack patterns to learn, and just when you get bored of dodging projectiles, the game switches it up and changes the mechanics and physics of the heart you play as. It's brilliant, and so is this game.
Who is your favorite Five Nights at Freddy's game developer? Maybe it's Mixlas for the amazing Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. Maybe it's Scott Cawthon himself for making the series we all love so much today. My answer should be pretty obvious if you're at all familiar with my channel, and that developer is Garrett McKay, responsible for amazing games I've covered on this channel like Fredbear's Frights and A Bite at Freddy's. He was also a 3D modeler for Pop Goes Evergreen, but he's also responsible for another amazing project, a project I've been asked to cover many times ever since the release of my review of Fredbear's Fright. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot, which is the game I will finally be covering in this video. Going into Left to Rot, I had no idea what to expect. I had seen absolutely nothing about the game going into it, which is how I go into most of the games I cover on this channel. All I knew was the game's developer, who I already had a lot of confidence in. So let's waste no time and jump into the long-awaited coverage of Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot. Rather than throwing you into a menu screen like most FNAF games, Left to Rot begins with a cutscene, similar to Garrett's other works. This cutscene appears to be an instruction tape, informing workers how to switch from the old Fredbear and Spring Bonnie animatronics over to the new and improved Freddy and Bonnie. We have to dismantle the old animatronics and replace them, afterwards adding Chica by Freddy's side. This is actually really interesting. Instead of just replacing the animatronics, we sort of reused some of the endoskeleton pieces from the old models, meaning that, technically, Fredbear is still a part of Freddy, and Spring Bonnie is still a part of Bonnie. Something interesting to think about. After this cutscene, we're actually thrown into another cutscene. We're in a car on the phone with an unknown person. We're told by this person that we're supposed to enter an unnamed building and head straight into the office. Slowly disabling all of the building's systems, we're told that the animatronics inside act as security, and if they touch us, it's not gonna be fun. I know all of you goons think differently, so don't even start with the comments. We enter the building and the real gameplay can't begin. On this night, we're in the observatory, and our main goal is to get through each camera and disable their audio and their video. That doesn't sound very difficult, Dexter. Shut the fuck up. You know full well there's gonna be some animatussies trying to hit us from the back. The three characters trying to grab up on us are Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, and the Prototype. Fredbear is pretty simple. If you see him standing approximately 6 feet away from you, aka close enough to smell his rancid breath, jump under the desk like they're the trenches in World War I and pray to God that his breath isn't the equivalent to mustard gas. Once he leaves, you can pop back up. Spring Bonnie is much the same, only instead of his breath smelling like all the dead fish on Earth, Spring Bonnie's breath smells like ass. Because you know what they say, you are what you eat, and he's eating a whole lot of ass. Did you know back in middle school when all of the kids were saying what they wanted to be when they grew up? Some kids said firefighter, some kids said police officer. This motherfucker right here said, I wanna be an astronaut. I wanna explore booty. Absolutely foul robot. The Prototype is a bit different, however. Just being an endoskeleton, he really doesn't have any meat on the bones, meaning there's nothing for you freaks to grab up on. Usually, my metaphors have to deal with the robots touching us, but after reading some of your feral comments, I get the feeling my metaphor should be the other way around. Anyways, if the endoskeleton is in your office, just flash your light at him and he'll go away. Overall, this room isn't too difficult, but really shows off just how creepy the atmosphere for the rest of the game is going to be. Also, yes, I said room, not night that time, because this entire game takes place in a single night, as we make our way through a giant building trying to find something that is so far unknown to us. Let's waste no time and hop into the next room. Before we can go into the next room, however, we have another minigame slash cutscene to go through. In this one, we see Freddy, who is actually talking to us. This, by the way, is just another tutorial tape for employees where they're shown how they can remotely control the animatronics while they're on stage. We move his jaw, and my favorite, make him shake like he's having a seizure. Jumping into the next phone call, we stand outside of a mysterious door. Are your nuts quaking staring at this door? Mine are. We're told that behind that door is a storage room, and that inside there are some items that we need to collect. Entering the room, we grab a few remotes and a larger screen. Not totally sure what these things are. Maybe a camera system? Who knows? Now all we need to do is walk out of this door right here and oh god damn it, of course it doesn't have any power. This is gonna be a survival section, isn't it? Hey, future Dexter here. He's right. It's a survival section. To prevent this Dexter from going apeshit feral mode, I'm going to take over this section for him. In this section, we have to charge up the door we need to exit through, while staying safe from Max. Who the fuck is Max, I hear you asking? I have no idea. But he's behind this curtain. Seems to be a puppet type thing, I'm not really sure. As we, slowly as fuck, charge up this door, Max will start making moves, and we have to keep him behind the curtain by flashing our light at him. This room is incredibly easy. Max does not move very fast, and even though the door takes about 2 decades to charge, you won't really ever feel in danger throughout. Going through the dark doorway, we continue. Before entering the next room, we have to interact with yet another tape. This one teaches us how to test arcade machines. We have to play 2 fuck-ass minigames that I hate in order to continue. The first game where you play as Spring Bonnie in space, having to shoot little Bonnies at pizza to defend who the fuck knows what. This game takes so goddamn long to complete. I'm actually getting sick to my stomach even thinking about it. The second game we have to test is an interesting one, to say the least. We play as Sneaky Guy. Who the fuck is Sneaky Guy? I don't know. All you do in this game is run around aimlessly through rooms until the game just shits itself. Thank you, Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot. What a great use of my time. After that, we immediately enter test room 1, which is just a child's bedroom. A little weird why that would be a test room, but we're going to pretend like that isn't incredibly alarming. The guy on the phone tells us that he's not entirely sure what's actually in this room for us to collect. But before he can say anything else, the phone call goes to static and cuts out, leaving us alone for the very first time. Oh shit, guys, I just pissed the bed. Editor, can you bring a mop please and clean up the piss mess all over the fucking bed? Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I know this is such a big pissy mess, but I don't know what happened to me. Usually I'm better at this. I mean, look at this mess. It's got to be at least a gallon or 2. Thank you, editor. I apologize for this disgusting inconvenience. You can leave now. Thank you again. Sorry about that, guys. Let's just talk about the room now. In this room, the goal is to pry open this vent, slowly as fuck. While we're trying to open this vent, we're being attacked by 2 animatronics of which I don't know the names of, so for the sake of this section, I will be calling them Freak Bob number 1 and Freak Bob number 2. Freak Bob number 1 attacks from the door to the room that's in front of you when the night begins. He will appear at random in the doorway, making a sound cue to let you know he's there. All you have to do is quickly whip around and flash him. With your light, not your genitals. Fucking weirdo. You also have to make sure that Freak Bob number 1's toy stays wound up. If you don't, Freak Bob number 1 himself is going to get wound up. Sexual style. And it's not going to be very fun for you. Freak Bob number 2 is pretty much a nerfed version of Freak Bob number 1, being at your closet door instead. If you hear him, flash your light at him and he'll piss off. No toy to crank, very simple. The only struggle to this room is actually not falling asleep while you wait for this slow-ass, fuck-ass, dumb-ass, stupid-ass fuck vent to open! Alright, pause. Time for me to cut in. This last Dexter was supposed to stay calm, but apparently he couldn't do it either. So hi, I'm Dexter number 3, and I'll be taking over from here. Shoo, now, get out. Thank you. Alright, where were we? Oh yes. Once the vent has been pried open, you're safe to crawl through and move on to the next room. Exiting the vent, we see an exit door. But before we get the opportunity to leave this hellhole, we get jumped by some fuck-ass animatronic who knocks us out. We wake up inside of an unknown room with a tape in front of us. Playing it, we find it's one of the tapes heard in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, teaching us how to climb in and out of Springlock costumes. Oh no, this is about to be bad. After listening to the tape, we go over to a Fredbear costume and open it up. Climbing inside, we slowly lower the suit onto our bodies. Once inside, we play the next tape. As the phone guy tells us not to breathe on the spring locks, we immediately start breathing on the spring locks. This is F student behavior right here, by the way. Of course, we die, and now's the time I should say that this is definitely not our player in this cutscene. I say that because after this death, we enter Test Room 2. Oh boy. Test Room 2. How I hate you. In Test Room 2, the most immediate threat is the toxicity of the room we are in. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy have been literally ripping ass and hotboxing this room for the last 12 years, and without a gas mask, we will soon die because of it. Luckily for us, we have a gas mask. Putting it on decreases our toxicity level, but whenever the mask is off, it will very quickly begin to climb back up. Dexter, that doesn't sound too bad. Shut the hell up. I haven't even started talking about the animatronics in this godforsaken room yet. Let's start with Freddy and Chica, shall we? These two work pretty much exactly the same, with only one small difference. Freddy and Chica will enter your vents in an attempt to get to you. When you see them in your vents via your cameras, you will have to temporarily disable the fans in those vents to gas them out and make them leave. However, when you disable a vent fan, your toxicity will increase dramatically faster than you can handle, so you need to make sure you're listening for the vent sound cue to let you know they left so that you can quickly turn the fans back on. I said there was a difference between Freddy and Chica, and the only difference is that Freddy is goated and you'll be able to see him in the hallway, giving you a better warning as to when he's about to enter your vent. Bonnie is the next annoying character, so let's talk about him. Bonnie will appear behind you in your window. When you see him, he will lean in real close to give you a kiss. Now pause. While you may feel enticed to reciprocate, I would advise against that. Little did you know, Bonnie doesn't know what a toothbrush is. So unless you're the most disgusting human being on the planet, kissing someone like that probably isn't the best idea. When Bonnie leans in, what you should be doing instead is putting your gas mask on, which scares him away for some reason. Maybe it's because he took the hint that you don't want to kiss him. That's my best guess. But now, we need to talk about the behemoth, Foxy. Allow me to keep my composure when I say this.
This is fucking bullshit! Fuck this stupid ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass fox! God damn, I'm gonna give a brother an aneurysm with this dick!
Alright, I said it. I've tried to fight the demons throughout this entire video, but I just can't anymore. I guess I'm not allowed to just be calm and do a normal review without freaking out and losing my goddamn mind. This second test room broke me. This second test room is the bane of my existence. I cannot stand it. Foxy will appear in your hallway. When he does, you need to shut off the power to your office, which means no checking cameras, no blocking vents, and my favorite, no turning around to check on Bonnie! Fuck! Fuck! Why are you doing this to me, game? What did I do to you? Garrett, look at me! Look at me in my fucking eyes right now! What happened to you? What did someone do to you to make you design something so absolutely foul, devious, and soul-degrading? I cannot describe how angry I am at this room. You can see my reaction over on my second channel, Dexter Black. When you have to turn the lights off, you have to do so for such a long time. Enough time to take a nap. Fuck it, right? Why not? And how long do you have to deal with this shit-ass cycle for? 6 minutes. 6 soul-sucking fuck-ass minutes. I was so close to ripping out my pubic hair with my teeth while suffering through this horrendous room. 6 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but trust me, this is the longest 6 minutes I've ever been through, especially when I died at 5 minutes about 100 times. I'm drained, completely drained. I don't know if I can continue writing about this game. I don't know if I can complete it. Not so bad when you listen. You know, maybe if you listen more often, people wouldn't call you butt as fuck. Oh my god, that noise scared the fuck out of me, but I did it.
damn. Half an hour on that bullshit. I did it. God, it is real. Thank God. I thought I'd never escape that bullshit. Oh my God. This is making me want to go outside and appreciate life. Fuck FNAF. Fuck YouTube. I need to be out in nature. No, actually, scratch that. Women are outside, and women are scary. Let's stay inside where it's safe and no woman would ever go, and continue to the next cutscene. The next cutscene has us learn how to clean a fursuit, something Cord Kitty should have taken notes on. Freaky fuck. After cleaning the suit, we're thrown into the final test, which is unironically my favorite section in this entire game. During this final test, we have to send what the game calls the suit into the office. This suit will move around the cameras, and whenever we see him without his eyes glowing, we need to press the return button. After doing this about 5 times, the final test is over. Congrats, you've just beaten— Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Of course there's more than that. On top of the suit, we have a few other threats to deal with. Let's start with the Lil Bonnie. Side note, I know these guys have actual names, but I think Lil Bonnie sounds better, so kick rocks. Lil Bonnie will occasionally pop into your office. When he does, all you have to do is use the jumper cables on your desk to shock his nipples and scare him away. Lil Freddy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, however. He will occasionally appear in your window. You'll notice a piece of paper on the window as well. When you see Lil Freddy, you'll have to move the paper to cover his eyes so he can't see you, confirming that Freddy has no object permanence. Lil Golden Freddy is the last character to talk about. He can jump in front of your cameras, fucking them up. And when you see him doing this, all you have to do is reboot the cameras and it's GG easy. After moving the suit successfully to the office, the power goes out, and it looks like Golden Freddy appears in front of us. We try desperately to use a remote control to shock him, but it doesn't work. He lunges at us, cutting to black. We cut back to see the bathroom camera from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and Golden Freddy waving us into the female restroom for some reason. A little bit of a creep freak, if you ask me. Shortly after, he kind of just stares at the camera all weird like, before we're shown we got the tragic ending. Endings? Oh no. So, in my playthrough on Dexter Black, for some reason I never got the other endings. I have no idea why. I have no idea what's wrong with me. But don't worry, I'll cover them here. Just know that from this point forward, all the footage you will see is from Dice Games. Thank you for actually completing this game, Dice, like I didn't do for some reason. Before I cover all the endings, I need to quickly talk about Insane Mode, found in the Extras menu. It's a much more challenging version of Test Room 2, which, fuck that. No way in hell I'm even thinking about touching that bullshit, and I didn't on my playthrough on Dexter Black either. Maybe that's the reason I never got the other endings. Anyways, after beating Insane Mode, we're greeted to what looks to be Freak Bob number 2 from Test Room 1 lying on the ground. The guy on the phone apologizes and says that they will soon go after Afton. We're shown a piece of paper that reads the following. Experiment number 3 notes. Experiment number 3 tests the binding effects of the high energy substance variable to surfaces larger than those in experiments 1 and 2. As the surface variable increases in size, the energy output decreases only slightly. The surface tested on for this experiment was the Mouseki version 2 animatronic. It is unknown whether the results were influenced by integrated motor components of the surface. 2 more experiments will be necessary to evaluate for bias. Experiment overall successful. More details in the experiment log. As some people are aware, Garrett McKay's games are connected. In this note is a reference to Mouseki from Fredbear's Fright. It appears that Freak Bob number 2 might actually just be an earlier version of Mouseki. Now, back to ending grinding. Going all the way back to the phone call before the storage room section, if instead of going straight into the storage room like I did, you instead can turn left and you'll find a safe. Inputting the code 321975, the safe will open and you'll be able to take a small remote out. Using this remote, we can go back to the final test room and use that remote to shock the suit as it enters our office, fucking its shit up, making it get its jiggy on, giving us the good ending. We're greeted to a final cutscene where we box up Fredbear and Spring Bonnie for good, and we're told that because of William Afton, the company has to be sold and the building will be locked up forever. Now's the time where I need to talk about Custom Night. Usually I never talk about custom nights in my reviews, but the custom night in this game is actually very important. There are several pre-built custom challenges that give fun rewards like in FNAF 2, but the all 20 mode is the challenge that's really important. So let's go over how everything works. On custom night, we're in an office we've never seen before, with 4 monitors and 2 hallways leading to our office. First, how do we win? Well, on the 4th monitor, you'll see a list of detections. This is just like the mechanics from Pizzeria Simulator, where we have to deactivate everything on the monitor in order for the night to end. There are actually 2 pages of detections, meaning that we have 10 total to deactivate, and goddamn does it take a long time to even deactivate one of them. So cool, easy enough. Now, what about the threats? Let's start with Timothy, or as we've been calling him, Freak Bob number 2. Timothy will appear in the right hallway of your office. When you see him there, you'll have to use your hyper flash to scare him off. Next up is the prototype. He's pretty similar to Freak Bob number 2. He will appear in the left hallway of your office, and instead of using the hyper flash, you'll have to shine your light at him until he decides it's time to goon again and leaves. Next on the chopping block is Roger, aka the Freak Bob number 1 toy. He just kinda chills on your desk. Keep him wound up to stop him from chomping on that delectable tush you've got. The suit is next. He appears on your 3rd monitor, which has 2 cameras. If you ever see him on any of them, you need to press the advance button to make him run away like a little bitch. Next up is Jeffrey, or as we've called him, Lil Freddy. Lil Freddy will appear on your 1st monitor, which has 4 cameras. If you see him on one, you need to make that camera go to static so he doesn't see you. Remember, he has no object permanence. Barry is up next, aka Lil Bonnie. He'll appear on the 2nd monitor. It'll be kind of hard to see because of how dark it is, but when you do see him, you need to shock his nipples again. That gets his rocks off. And finally, we have Lewis, or of course, better known as Lil Golden Freddy. Lewis can appear on any of your monitors, and when you see him, you need to reboot it as fast as possible, making him probably the most annoying character in all of Custom Night. The combination of all these characters together is brutal. You will barely have time to do the tasks you need to complete this night. I, of course, have not beaten all 20 mode because I value my sanity, but to anyone who has beaten this like Dice Games, congrats because this is nuts. After completing 720 mode, you unlock access to a final minigame. You play as a character in black inside of one of the pizzerias. You turn off the power to the building and get inside of a Fredbear costume and go to the office to, quote, find the intruder. Once in the office, you grab the security guard and drag him away, giving us the getaway ending, with text displayed on screen stating no one will believe him. We also get a little creep shot of a foot that I know you guys are wanting to give a quick lick. Don't even lie. I actually have a small theory that this minigame shows what really happened in the final test room of this game. When the lights went out, whoever was in that suit that we were trying to get to the office gets to us and drags us away. But because we pick up that special remote, we were able to shock him and stop him. But that's just a theory. A gay theory. What's the coolest thing you've ever seen a FNAF game do? Has there ever been a moment where you're playing a game and something is revealed that absolutely blows your mind? I've recently been suggested a FNAF game that did exactly that, and I'm very excited to share it with you all. Today, I'll be talking about Fredbear's Fright, an amazing FNAF fan game made in 2017 by Garrett McKay. This game is heavily tied to the original Five Nights at Freddy's lore, with a twist at the end you're not going to want to miss, so I'd recommend sticking around to the end because its ending is actually crazy. Let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. Fredbear's Fright opens with a cutscene that takes place in the office from FNAF 1. The screen turns upside down, and I'm actually not totally sure why that happens. If you guys know why, let me know in the comments. Afterwards, we're sent to the menu and we can jump straight in to night 1. Something really interesting about this game is that it actually takes place in the original Freddy Fazbear's location with a few tweaks. You'll notice the only door you have is your left one, the right door being replaced with a small vent on the ground that can also be closed via door. You can see above the vent a panel with numbers on it, but we'll get into what that is later. Additionally, on the ceiling there's a lever you can pull that causes water to sprinkle into the office. I will get to that in a moment also. The animatronics in this game are mostly original aside from the 2 main ones, those being Dismantled Spring Bonnie and Dismantled Fredbear. We'll talk about Fredbear later because on night 1 only Dismantled Spring Bonnie and scrapped Mousiki
Mouseki? I'm just going to say Mouseki, are active. So let's talk about them. Spring Bonnie acts as one of the main antagonists in Fredbear's Fright, and will probably be the character you see the most of in your playthrough. And if you take a look at him, you'll notice he is absolutely big back. This motherfucker never leaves the line at the Golden Corral. He starts on the main stage and moves towards your office. He moves to your right side to attempt to enter your vent. You'll be able to tell when he enters your vent because you'll hear the vent banging. Unlike shitty ass, fuck ass Five Nights at Freddy's 2 vent noises, there are actually different noises for different circumstances so that you can actually tell what's going on, which I'm sure everyone can appreciate. When Bonnie, or any other character for that matter, first enters your vent, you will hear exactly 2 vent bangs. Once he's in your vent, just close the vent door. After this, there are 2 other possible vent noises that will be heard depending on which night you're on. If you hear just a single bang, that means whatever is in your vent has left, and you're safe to open the vent door. However, if you hear more than 2 vent bangs, that means that whatever was in your vent just swapped places with someone else, and you should keep your vent closed. This is so incredibly helpful, it cannot go unnoticed. Because of this sound system, it doesn't make you rely on the cameras to tell the location of animatronics that attack from the vent. This is miles better than what FNAF 2 does, where every single possible movement in the vents uses the exact same fucking sound. And if you're on a super busy night like 10-fucking-20 mode, the vent noises will actually start to overlap each other, making it borderline impossible to tell what the hell is going on. Now let's talk about scrapped Mouseki. Mouseki is only ever visible on 2 cameras, camera 7 and camera 6. He will start on camera 7, and let me say, he looks scary as fuck, I'm not even gonna lie. He will move to camera 6, and when he moves again, he will disappear from the cameras entirely. Shortly after, you'll be able to find him at your left door when using the door light. What the fuck? All you have to do is simply close the door, and he'll promptly piss off. Mouseki will almost never be a real problem until later nights with a certain character I'll talk about later. Get to 6 AM and congrats, you're ready for night 2. After most nights in Fredbear's Frights, you will have to play an 8-bit classic FNAF minigame. The first minigame has you play as Fredbear on a stage with Spring Bonnie. You'll sing to the children for a short amount of time before the curtains close, and Purple Guy will come on stage and presumably turn the animatronics off. Oh boy, Pussy Guy is going to do something devious, I already know it! Anyways, on to night 2, which surprisingly doesn't have any of the animatronics that were active last night present. This night introduces 4 new characters: Dismantled Fredbear, the Hand Puppets, and Prototype. No, not the Prototype from Poppy Playtime. I don't know why I assumed you think it was. Probably because all you chronic gooners are brain rotted. Yeah, we'll go with that. Dismantled Freddy is one of the easiest animatronics to deal with. However, he can be pretty annoying when he attacks at a non-optimal time. Fredbear begins on stage just like Bonnie. He'll make his way to your office. But unlike every other character, you cannot prevent him from entering your office. He enters a room that you can't see on your cameras that's located behind your office. Once there, he'll wait for you to lift up your camera. You'll be able to hear that he's entered your office when you hear 2 thumps. Upon pulling your camera down, you'll be able to see him standing in front of you menacingly, and as tempted as you might be to immediately become physically affectionate with him, I encourage you to rethink your choices because you have to remember that he's a robot and not an actual living being that you can have relations with. This is where the sprinkler system becomes important. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see a water meter, indicating how much water you have left. When you pull the lever on the ceiling, water will start to rain down and decrease your meter. It's very important you don't use this water up because it's directly how you deal with Fredbear. The phone guy tells us that water will mess with the animatronics because, no shit, they're robots. He really didn't have to explain that one to us, but okay. So when Fredbear is in your office, just spray some water on him and he'll eventually go away. Something I want to mention is how unlikely it is that you'll run out of water. Even on the harder nights, I never had to deal with Fredbear more than like 3 times, and it doesn't take much water to make him go away. Safe to say, Fredbear is never a character you'll really have to worry about. That is, considering he doesn't show up when someone is at your door or enters your vent. You see, when Fredbear is in your office, you will be unable to interact with any buttons in your office besides the water lever. This means no closing the door, checking the hall light, or closing the vent door. I'm sure you can see where this could become a big problem. Let's move on to the hand puppets. There are two of them, a Spring Bonnie puppet and a Fredbear puppet, both of them being on the same camera. However, these two puppets move separately from one another, really acting as two animatronics. However, they function the same. Both act exactly the same as Spring Bonnie, going to the right vent and attempting to enter your office. You deal with them the same way as you do Bonnie, just by shutting the vent. The same vent noise system still applies with these two. And my theory for their existence is purely to force you to listen and understand the vent noises, which is something I think is actually really cool. The final character to talk about is Prototype. Oh boy, Prototype. Prototype acts as the Foxy of this game. Similar to him, he has several phases on Cam 1B. He will slowly move through these phases, and just like Foxy, can be slowed down by watching him on the cameras. Once he leaves Cam 1B, you know he's on his way to your office.
Oh, fuck. The endoskeleton. It's on the move, bro.
And you'll have to quickly close your left door. But there is a problem you'll probably notice. The game mentions that you'll know the Prototype has reached your door when he pounds on it, just like Foxy does. Except the only problem with that is, at least for me, no pounding sound is ever played. I never had a sound cue from Prototype. Instead, what I had to do was check the cameras to see if he had gone back to camera 1B. This wasn't really a huge issue for me overall, since I was constantly checking the camera throughout the night anyways, but I did probably end up losing way more power than I ever needed to. Something I want to mention about the power system, by the way. It's incredibly forgiving. You'll notice it decreases pretty slowly even when you're using a lot of power draining systems at a time. Power is usually something you'll never have to really worry about. Obviously, if you keep your doors closed all night, you're going to have a problem, but if you're playing normally, you probably won't even end up thinking about your power. But now, let's talk about Night 2's post-night minigame. In this game, you play as Foxy, dancing for the kids on stage before the curtain close, and Purpley Warpley fucks his shit up, ending the minigame. That's really it. Time for Night 3. Night 3 includes Bonnie, Prototype, Mousakey, the hand puppets, and a brand new character who is incredibly stress-inducing, Scrapped Fredbear. Scrapped Fredbear acts as an incredibly unique character that will cause more anxiety than driving right next to a semi-truck. Scrapped Freddy technically isn't a threat to you, at least lore-wise he isn't. According to the help menu, Scrapped Freddy doesn't actually want to hurt you. Scrapped Freddy works a lot like Golden Call from Dormitibus. He'll wander around the camera until he finds a phone. When he does, he'll call your office and give you a code to deactivate his AI. This is, again, according to his help menu, because he doesn't want to attack you, which I think is really interesting. When he calls your office and lists this code, you will have to use the number pad I mentioned earlier in this video to punch in the numbers. You don't have to press them as he's saying them, but once he's done reading off the code, he will hang up after a short amount of time, and if you don't have the code typed in by the time he hangs up, your ass is on the line and he's about to snort that shit. Typically, he gives you 4 numbers, but I've had him give me 5 or sometimes even 6. This can become very stressful, because you'll need to keep track of everything else going on, so you don't really have the time to put everything on pause just to focus on the code. So you'll have to keep repeating the code in your head so you don't forget as you're dealing with all of the other problems. Ooh.
5, 7, 4, 2, 5.
You bitch! I was typing that, you ass!
But if you can handle all that bullshit at once, you're home clear of Night 3 and can move on to Night 4. But first, we have the post-Night 3 minigame to talk about. In this game, you play as Fredbear again and have to deliver cake to 3 children. After doing so, you walk over to a door and get yanked inside by Purple Guy and his little grubby dirty ass fingers. Fucking yuck, am I right? But now it's time for Night 4, and let me tell you, this night is super fucking cool. The night starts off normal, with every character we've seen thus far active. However, Phone Guy tells us that Prototype has done something terrible and doesn't explain what.
Prototype is doing something terrible. Tonight has been very good for me.
Shortly after, you can hear something on his side of the line scream, and the call abruptly ends. The night continues as normal, and throughout this night, you'll notice that the Prototype is nowhere to be found. Where the fuck is the Prototype? Hello? At 1 a.m., every other animatronic in the building disappears, and the real threat of this night shows itself. Fright. Fright is the final boss of Fredbear's Fright, acting as one final battle. Fright is presumably the prototype, but you'll notice that he's made up of pieces of all of the other animatronics, which leads me to believe that the reason they all disappeared is because the prototype destroyed and mangled all of them, making them part of him. You know what? Maybe this prototype does share a lot of similarities to the prototype from Poppy Playtime. Fright can be tricky, and it's not because his mechanics are particularly difficult, but instead because of how incredibly fast he is. Fright can attack from both the left door and right vent. He will only be visible on camera 6 and camera 4B. If you see him on camera 6, he's more than likely about to attack your door. The moment he disappears from the camera, very quickly he will be at your door. Close it as fast as you can because you will not have much time. You'll have to keep checking the cameras to figure out when he's left your door, and when he does, it won't be long until he attacks you again. If you see him on camera 4B, he's about to attack your vent. Same thing with camera 6. When he leaves, you'll soon hear him pound on your vent, and you'll quickly need to close it. Again, this night isn't hard because of what Fright does, it's hard because of how fast he does it. You'll need to be on your toes all night and be precise while also keeping your cool. This night acts as a very fun and quick night. It's incredibly satisfying to play once you get into the groove, which is something I really like about this game. It's very satisfying to play because it's balanced very nicely. If you can control your nerves until 6 a.m., the night ends. But not how you might think. Rather than getting your 6 a.m. screen, Fright reaches your office, and there's no way to stop this from happening. You get jump scared by him, and a cutscene begins. The cutscene looks to take place in the original FNAF 1 location before the reworks to the building that we've seen in the game. Whoever we're playing with holds up a phone and makes a call. It's at this moment we get what I feel is one of the coolest scenes from any FNAF game I've ever played. It's revealed that we're the phone guy from FNAF 1, and we start giving the call you can hear on night 4 of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, which of course is the infamous death of his character, except this time we see it from his point of view.
Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads.
Dude, what? What?
Oh no.
Oh, damn! Yo, that was fucking sick! Dude, we were playing as the phone guy, you're joking! And this is how night 4 concludes. This is actually so fucking cool. This reveal right here is the main reason I chose to make a video about this game. It's so simple, but I absolutely love it when games have fun reveals like this. But would you believe me if I said Night 5 was even cooler? Let's talk about it. Night 5 takes place in the unmodified FNAF 1 building, with us playing as the phone guy again. But this time, we're in the back room stuffed in a suit. This night actually takes place sometime after he made the call on night 4, revealing that Freddy never killed him in the office, instead dragging him to the back room and stuffing him into one of the empty spring-lock suits that he wanted Michael to check on. This night consists of phone guy trying to survive until 6 a.m. so that someone can come and rescue him in the morning from the suit he's trapped in. You'll notice that this night starts at 2 a.m. instead of 12. This is because it takes place technically during night 4, which he made his final call during. So of course, some time has passed. This is so fucking cool! I can't get enough of this. But let's talk about the gameplay of this night. You have to prevent the spring lock suit you're sitting in from closing by holding space. Throughout the night, Freddy and Bonnie will be checking in on you by opening the door and watching you. Whenever either of them peek in, you'll have to stop holding space and play dead. Once they leave, you're free to continue. Additionally, you'll have frequent hallucinations that will require you to close your eyes by pressing shift. The hallucinations make very loud noises and closing your eyes blocks your vision. Fucking obviously. So, when you have your eyes closed, I'd let go of space, since you won't be able to tell when Freddy or Bonnie enter. If they see that you're alive, they'll definitely gobble you up like the little gobble monsters they are. After surviving until 6 a.m., the night ends, and we get one final post-night minigame. This final minigame requires us to press A. When we do, we see Purple Guy press a button that seemingly activates the 4 animatronics. They walk out from behind a curtain and are in much worse shape than we've seen them in previous minigames, actually appearing to look like their nightmare variants from FNAF 4. They follow Afton into a room with the locked box from Five Nights at Freddy's 4 with a key laying next to it. If you click this key, you'll actually be able to collect it. The game ends soon after, whether you grab the key or not, giving you the normal ending. So, how do you get the true ending? Well, as I'm sure you could have guessed, we need to find the second key and unlock that box we see in the minigame. But where is the second key? I don't ever remember seeing it up until this point. Well, that's because it's actually very out of the way. On any night from nights 1 to 4, if you go to camera 6 and click on the Freddy poster in the background, you'll be sent to a secret minigame. In this minigame, you play as Freddy and just have to move him across the screen and grab the key hanging from the ceiling. After you grab it, the minigame ends. Now, you might think you need to replay the 4th night minigame to open the box at the end, but that would actually be incorrect. Instead, we get the ability to open the box after we finish one final challenge, Insane Mode, which is accessed through the Extras menu. Insane Mode is exactly what you think it'd be, a high-pressure, difficult night where all characters are active. The only real problems of this night are Prototype and Scrapped Fredbear, because they have a pretty deadly combo when you have to take time to punch in Freddy's code while Prototype is having to move. Since you won't be able to watch and stall him enough to stop him from charging your door, most other characters aren't a huge problem. Just make sure you're really listening and paying attention to the vent noises so you know when you should have the vent closed and when it's safe to keep it open. After you beat Insane Mode, you will see the locked box. As long as you've collected both keys, you'll be able to undo both locks and see what's inside. After the box opens, the screen will start to glitch, and if you look closely, you'll actually be able to see 4 faces between the locks, presumably a reference to the 4 dead children. Finally, one last cutscene plays. On a desk, you'll be able to see what appears to be the newspaper we saw at the beginning of the game, with someone named Radio Man calling us. He says he thinks he might have a lead and asks us if we'd be willing to go to an unknown location by ourselves. He says there's no guarantee we'll be able to find him there, not knowing who he is or where there is. The call ends with Radio Man asking us to return his call as soon as we can. At first, I thought this was someone calling Michael Afton in reference to going to one of the Freddy locations to find and kill his father. Up until this point, it seemed that this game was heavily tied to the official games. But after doing some digging, I learned that this cutscene is actually a teaser to one of Garrett McKay's other games by the name of Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot.
What is the most well-known Five Nights at Freddy's fan game of all time? Obviously, if you know anything about the fandom, you'd know that the answer to that question is Five Nights at Candy's, the first fan game to ever meet the quality of the official games, the first of its time. Five Nights at Candy's needs no introduction. If you're watching FNAF videos like this, you already know what it is, and you probably remember various YouTubers playing it. And remember how amazing it truly was. But was it really? Today, I'll be taking a deep dive into the world of Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Freddy's most mediocre fan game. Five Nights at Candy's 1. Where it began, where it started. It would be unfair to talk about the original since a much better remake has been made for it now, Five Nights at Candy's Remastered, so I'll be talking about that version when talking about the first game in the series for this video. For the first game in the series, this game actually has a bunch of characters, something that most first FNAF games don't have, starting off with a large 7 different animatronics for you to deal with. But let me tell you, this will not lead to any meaningful challenge throughout the game. Might as well mute the fucking thing and put on a movie while you're playing because this game is piss easy. Easy game doesn't equal bad game, Dexter, I hear you saying, and I agree. There are plenty of very easy games that are very fun and good. However, the thing about those other easy games is that they're also fun and entertaining. Five Nights at Candy's is not fun or entertaining. There are multiple mechanics implemented into this game that are actually useless, and I'll get into those in a bit. But first, we should talk about Night 1. Night 1 introduces 3 characters. Excuse me? 3. 3 characters on the first night of the game. Well, this just sounds like a fucking nightmare, doesn't it? Well, don't fret. You actually have nothing to worry about because, as I said earlier, this game is easier than a pick-me girl. The animatronics active on this night are Candy, Cindy, and Chester. Let's cover Candy first since he's the main character. Who would have thought? Candy loves to twerk. That's not important. Just thought I'd tell you about my headcanon. Hey, Candy! Boing! 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 Okay, sorry. Anyways, Candy can attack either of your 2 doors, which you may think would make him a challenge, having to strategically watch the cameras to see which direction he'll go in. Because something you'll notice about your office is that the doors have no lights. Well, guess what? That doesn't matter because Candy's eyes glow in the doorway when he appears there, so you never have to check your camera. Just watch the door for the 2 white dots to appear and then close it. Well, if it's not hard to track him, does he waste a lot of power to make the night more stressful? No, not at all. He and all the other animatronics actually leave your door incredibly quickly, so you will barely waste any power keeping them out. Speaking of power, how does it work? Well, something interesting about the doors is that instead of draining a constant amount of power like most FNAF games, the doors in this game will exponentially drain power, meaning that the longer they're closed, the faster they drain power. You can tell how fast the doors will drain power by the meter directly next to the button. That sounds fun, right? Having to manage your door power to make sure it doesn't stay high for too long? No. I just told you the animatronics leave super quickly, but on top of that, when you open the door, the meter empties almost immediately, so there is no challenge whatsoever. Okay, so the main character isn't tough to deal with. Maybe the other ones will compensate. Tell me about Cindy, Dexter. I want to examine her hip dips. First of all, back up, Buster. She's mine. Second of all, she's actually even easier than Candy is, if you could believe it. She works in the exact same way, except she only attacks the right door. Her eyes will also glow in the doorway, so again, there is still no need to ever look at the cameras yet. Are you keeping up? Let's see how long it takes before we're forced to look at the cameras together. This will be fun. What about Chester? He's got an interesting character design. How does he work? Well, you're actually right, I can't lie. Chester starts behind a curtain similar to Foxy, except the difference is that I actually can lie. All he does is go to your right door. Oh, and his eyes glow, so no. Still no reason to ever look at the camera in a million years. Okay, this game sounds really underwhelming, Dexter, but hey, you said there were 7 characters, right? Who appears in Night 2? Wonderful question. Night 2 introduces the Penguin. But unfortunately, that's a really boring and shitty name, so I'll be calling him Petey because fuck you. Petey actually does something different this time, and no, I'm really not lying this time. Petey will enter your office and hide under your desk. He himself doesn't actually kill you, but he will randomly open and close your doors, which can prove to be frustrating if he opens a door at the wrong time and you don't notice. Stop closing my shit, Petey. Stop closing my shit, Petey. Not cool, Petey. Petey, stop it! Oh, Petey, you're such a little dirty slut. He's also just adorable. I mean, look at him. He's precious. Oh, also, there's one key detail about him I left out, and that's that when he gets to your door, his eyes glow, so you can easily keep him out of your office. So, you know, I still don't ever have a reason to look at the cameras. Dexter, this is draining. When is this game going to get interesting? Well, that's funny you should ask that because the answer is fucking never. Night 3 introduces Blank, the most interesting character out of the entire game. And let me tell you, he's really not that interesting. Blank acts as this game's Foxy. I know I blue-balled you earlier, making you think that would be Chester's role, but Chester is really just worthless. Blank, on the other hand, is still worthless, just slightly less so. Blank appears on a camera I can't be fucked to double-check the name of. He has multiple phases he moves through before jumping to camera 5. Once in camera 5, if you look at him, you'll see him swing his fist towards the camera, which is actually the glass window directly in front of you. If you don't close the window in time, he'll break the glass and then break your back from behind. Well, hey, look at that. Finally reason to look at the cameras, right? Took the game long enough. Wrong, fucking idiot. Let me teach you how to properly play this game. Cameras are for bitches. You're not a bitch, are you? No. You watch Dexter White, and my second channel, Dexter Black, and my third channel, Dexter Blue, right? You're subscribed. You better be subscribed, you dirty piece of shit. I know you're not fucking subscribed. You better do it right now before I leak those Discord messages with that girl that said she was 13. Yeah, that's right, you fucking freak. I saw them. I'll let the whole fucking world know unless you subscribe right now. Did you subscribe? Okay. Good. Officer! Here he is! The sick bastard is right here! Gun his ass down! Taser, taser, taser! Firing squad, now! Go! Send in the fucking Moab! Okay, now that we got that sick fuck out of here, no, you still don't have to use the cameras, and it all has to do with your doors. Remember how I explained the exponential power usage? Yeah, we're about to break that mechanic. Here's all you have to do to beat every main night in this game. The night starts, close all 3 doors. Whenever a door reaches stage 3, open it, wait for it to empty, and re-close it. That's it. Repeat this process throughout the whole night, and congrats, the game is over. Wrap it up and go home, bro, you did it. You still might be wondering how that deals with blank. Well, that's easy. It only takes the door about 1.5 seconds to go back to empty. So while yes, technically speaking, blank could break through your window in that 1.5-second time frame, but the chances of that actually happening are pretty much slim to none. But let's imagine that this isn't an absolutely game-breaking strategy and move on to night 4, which introduces Old Candy, this game's poor attempt to make the game difficult. Old Candy works the same as every other normal character in this game. He moves to your left door and then attacks if the door isn't closed. But the big difference he has from the other character is that his eyes don't glow in the doorway. Usually, this is where I'd praise the game for finally doing something right. But the door strategy we've established earlier really destroys all hope this game had of redeeming itself. While yes, alone this would usually cause Old Candy to be another reason to check the cameras along with blank, since you don't have to, it literally doesn't even matter. Night 5. Anything cool? Literally no. It's just a harder version of Night 4. But how about Night 6? Is that any better? Kind of, I guess. Night 6 adds the rat.
Oh, shit! A rat!
Who does literally the exact same thing that Old Candy does. That being, you're unable to see his eyes in the door. Oh, and he can attack both doors like Candy. Mazel tov. It doesn't matter though. Again, because of the keep the doors closed the whole time strategy, this will make it feel like he never was there to begin with. In fact, would you believe me if I told you, even me, yes, Dexter, the guy who is so criminally bad at FNAF games he is often incapable of beating the 6th night of fan games, completed 720 mode on his first attempt while Petey was in the office at the same time. Would you believe me? If you said no, even after hearing about the broken strategy I talked about earlier, then I'm incredibly hurt that you would think I'm that fucking bad at video games. But yes, I did in fact beat 720 mode on my first attempt while Petey was in the office for a majority of the run. What are you gonna do about it? Wow, Dexter, this game is actually pretty fucking bad. I have no idea why I've been glazing it for as many years as I have been. Well, relax. You're right. But the remastered version of Five Nights at Candy's does actually add a secret night that I think is pretty cool. And guess what? You actually have to use your camera to beat it. Let's talk about it. If you go to the extras menu and stare at the rat for long enough, a code will appear on screen. If you input that code into the custom night menu, you will unlock a hidden night null, a final boss fight night against Shadow Candy. How does it play? Well, once you understand how he works, it's not a very difficult night, but I still think it's cool. To start the night, you need to look at Shadow Candy and the cameras, who appears on a camera that, once again, I can't be fucked to double check the name of. So editor, put the camera number on screen for me. There. That camera. Once you look at him, the night will begin. His movement pattern is unpredictable, but not too difficult to understand. He will try to get to your office like any other animatronic, but he can attack either of your doors and your window. If he gets to your office, you don't lose immediately. He'll jump scare you, yes, but instead of killing you, it will make you lose a decent chunk of power and cause the time to stop moving. In order to get the time to begin moving again, you have to look at the cameras and find an origami cat and click it. It will then return back to your desk, and then the time will resume as normal. So, we want to prevent Candy from getting into our office. How do we do that? If you're shitty at doing your job and Shadow Candy gets to your door, you're not immediately fucked. When he attacks, he will play a very quick animation in whatever doorway he is attacking from. In that small time frame, you will be able to close the door. You will still lose a decent chunk of power from this, but it won't be as much as if he jump scared you. Okay, so we want to prevent Shadow Candy from getting to the door, period. How do we do that? This part is pretty easy, but you need to be quick and accurate with your mouse. I've realized I haven't yet explained how the cameras worked yet, but that's because you haven't ever had to use them up until this point, so I'll explain them real quick. They have a flashlight like FNAF 2. That's it. There's nothing else special about them. However, this does lead into how Shadow Candy works. When Shadow Candy leaves insert camera number on screen editor, you will have a limited amount of time to find him on your cameras before he reaches your office. You will have to quickly check each camera to try and find him, and when you do, all you have to do is stare at him and he'll return to insert camera number on screen editor. However, there's still one super cool thing about Shadow Candy. Every time he moves, he will only be visible on either the cameras that are off or the cameras that are on. Meaning if your camera lights are on after he moves, there is a chance you won't be able to see him on any camera, and you'll have to switch your camera lights off and quickly recheck every camera to see where he is. So you do have to be very fast, which I actually think is pretty cool for a secret boss fight night like this. Again, it's not a very hard night once you know what you're doing, but I do want to give this game a little bit of praise since I've been shitting all over it so far. Before we move on to the next game, there's one small detail in this game that I really want to talk about, and that's the 2 other secret endings. If you go into the custom night menu and set everyone to 0 except Petey, setting him to 20 and begin the night, if you close all the doors and have the power run out, you'll get a secret ending with text on your screen stating that all you have to do is wait now, since there's nothing in the building that can kill you. If you instead let Petey into your office and then lose to power outage, it will additionally add that you're alone with a penguin. Literally so unimportant, but I love little details like this in games, so I had to mention it.
Five Nights at Candy's 2 begins with us getting a text message from someone. That someone is not named, but we're told that we lost a bet, and because of that, we'll have to spend 5 nights in an abandoned factory again. Note that this person says, again, which would lead one to believe that we've had to spend 5 nights here before. And let me tell you, when there are killer animatronics somewhere, you survive 5 nights there, and then agree to a bet where the loser has to go there again, I guarantee you're not taking that bet and you're not going there again. So I have a theory about our player. They're brain dead. That has to be it, because no one else on Earth would be that stupid. Anyways, then we get slingshotted into the first night, and that means I'm plagued with the burden of telling you about the worst part of this game, playing the game. Instead of being in an office, we're in the middle of a hallway. Why? Because we're the king of making bad decisions. There are several rooms with only one entrance, but we instead choose to sit in the one room in the building that has about 6 fucking entrances, so our chances of living are as small as possible. It's also a good idea to mention that this hallway we're in is darker than the abyss, so seeing is impossible, but don't worry. We came prepared with the worst possible form of light that we could possibly think of. An old-ass camera that has a flash. Again, remember, we've been here before, for 5 nights, and we came back with a terrible form of lighting even knowing how fucking dark it is. Brain dead. I will continue to emphasize this. Brain dead. Do we have a camera system? I hear you asking. Of course we do. Is it good? I hear you asking. Not even a little bit. Looking at the camera, you'll see a bunch of phone symbols. For some reason, almost every room in this building has a phone in it. Now remember that this building is supposed to be a factory. Why would there be a phone in every room in a factory? Have you ever worked in a factory? Let me tell you, factories are some of the loudest buildings on Earth. I would say it'd probably be quieter to work at a nuclear testing ground than it would be to work in a factory. On top of that, because of how loud factories are, most will have you wearing earplugs, so I guarantee you that nobody who's working in this factory would ever in a billion years be able to hear any of these phones ringing. But let's stop being literal and talk about why they're here. Similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there are no doors. So how do you keep the animatronics from fingering your butthole? Well, we use the phones to lure them around the building, just like the Balloon Boy laugh from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The key difference between this system and the system from FNAF 3 is, where the laughing system from FNAF 3 is good, the phone system from Five Nights at Candy's 2 fucking isn't. Let me explain. So in FNAF 3, you can use the Balloon Boy laugh in whatever room you want, and Springtrap will move to that room as long as he's in a room that is adjacent to it. Makes sense. In Five Nights at Candy's 2, you can use the phone in whatever room you want, but animatronics will only move to it if they're in the main hall where you are, and the reason given is the only room that they can hear the phone in is the main hall. Please, tell me how that makes any sense at all. Even if an animatronic is directly next to the room you use the phone in, they can't fucking hear it. But if they're in the main hallway and you use a phone in the furthest possible corner of the room 847 meters away, they'll jump on that shit. That makes no sense. Now you might be wondering, what happens when they get to the room of the phone you rang? Good question. They fucking disable it. Great. Now I have a question. Why are they going after the phone? It's a phone. Who cares? In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the reason Springtrap went after the Balloon Boy call was because it sounded like a child, and Springtrap had pedophobia, unlike Dr. Disrespect. But this is just a phone. What reason do the animatronics have to attack this phone? I actually have a theory about that. Because the phone call ring is the most annoying sound on the face of the planet. Don't believe me? This is what it sounds like. Isn't that the worst? Get ready to hear that for your whole playthrough, because it's the main fucking mechanic of the goddamn game. I still haven't even mentioned what happens on night 1. So to start, there's no phone calls. Thank God. If I had to hear the phone ring even one additional time, I think I'd rip an infant in half. And the only animatronic that's active on night 1 is Cindy. And let me tell you, she's got hips like Judy Hopps, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Cindy is pretty boring overall. She just moves around. Call phones and make her move, mazel tov. But let me tell you, she moves at about Mach 20. You'll call a phone, causing her to leave the hall, and within about 10 seconds, she's already back into the hallway again. So you get to hear the oh-so-good sound of the phone again and again and again. I love life. Just kidding. No, I don't. This game does something pretty interesting. Once you beat a night, you'll get a minigame. Night 1's minigame has you play as Chester the chimpanzee. In it, you walk around what I assume is the building from the first game. You walk down into the office, grab a key, and unlock what I'm guessing is a back room. However, we don't get to see what's inside before the minigame ends. Cool, I guess. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a new animatronic, that being Chester. Remember him? You should. I just talked about him quite literally about 15 seconds ago, so I hope you would. Chester has a mechanic more unique than Cindy's, so that's good at least. Chester will start going quite literally apeshit on one of the vents in a random room. Can you guess how to deal with him? Can you? I'll wait. Ding ding ding! We have a winner! You fucking use the fucking phones to fucking scare the fucker away. God, fuck, I can't stand the phones. I'm gonna shart and then I'm gonna piss on it. Fuck, I'm sorry, I need to relax. I've been seeing a psychiatrist, and he says we're making great progress. However, there was this one time his phone rang during a meeting and I ripped the couch in half. So, that set us back a little bit. Anyways, once you use the phone, Chester will run away like a bitch. If you don't use the phone fast enough, he'll climb through the vents and kill you. Very easy mechanic overall, but when mixed with the fact that when a phone is being called, you can't call another one, that's when it starts to get hard. Because you'll send Cindy to another room, and then directly after, Chester will start pounding on a vent in another room. Fuck me. Now I have to wait 30 seconds to use a phone again, and in that time, Chester has already tied me up, looking at me up and down and shit. But once we get through Night 2, we can move on to the post-Night 2 minigame. In this minigame, we play as the Penguin. I looked up his name, and his name is just the Penguin. Very creative, guys. Great work. In this minigame, we're tasked with picking up the remains of Chester and stuffing them into a box. Let's imagine that all of these animatronics are friends for a second, okay? That's super fucked up. Yeah, go pick up your best friend that's been ripped into fucking pieces and just throw him in a box. No funeral, no burial, just toss him in there. I feel bad for the Penguin. First he's got no name, and now he's on crime scene cleanup. Trying our best not to think about it, we move on to Night 3. Night 3 introduces two new animatronics, Candy and the Penguin. Candy is boring as fuck, literally just doing the exact same thing that Cindy does, which makes you wonder, what was even the point? The penguin, however, does do something pretty interesting. The penguin can randomly appear on any camera. If you look at him for too long, he will disable your cameras for a while, making you unable to look at them, retroactively making it impossible to call the phones, which is arguably a good thing, because I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than listen to the phone ring again. Now, I'm gonna pause real quick and ask you guys, does this mechanic sound a little familiar to you? Well, that's because it's quite literally just Balloon Boy's mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, with borderline zero differences. Ah yes, originality, how uncommon you are. But hey, it is better than Candy, to be fair, because the frequency in which I have to repeat myself in this script is making my ears ring. Ring. Oh, the fucking phone, oh, ring. Post Night 3 minigame time. Aren't you excited? You better be excited. In this minigame, we play as Blank. Our task here is to pick up 4 drawings. I would say that's irrelevant, but if you spend as much time as I do looking at and studying FNAF games, you'd know that Blank's purpose is to literally be drawn on by children, so this actually makes a little bit of sense. 3 of the drawings don't really mean dick, but there is one drawing I'd like to draw your attention to, only because it's the only thing in this game that I think is unsettling. A drawing of a sad kid with the text, "Where's Chester?" It's just unsettling because we know what happened to Chester, but this kid doesn't. It's a very small detail, but I have to do my best to find something positive in this dumpster fire of a game. After we collect all 4 drawings, it's time to move on to Night 4. Night 4 literally introduces no new animatronics. So we're just going to talk about the post-Night 4 minigame. I'm going to be honest with you guys because we're friends, pals, homies, some might even say buds. This minigame has no fucking purpose existing. You can tell that the devs just thought, oh fuck, I can't think of another minigame with substance, and then made this minigame. In this minigame you play as Cindy, and your task is to walk down to the office, grab Candy's tie, and give it to him. That's it. You know, I can tell that this script is going to be shorter than I usually like them to be already, but when you give me 0 content to work with, game, it makes it significantly more difficult to lengthen the script out so that the viewers have more fucking content. But I guess I'll just go fuck myself then, and we'll move on to Night 5. Night 5, thankfully, introduces a new animatronic for me to complain about, Blank. Technically, Blank can come in Night 4, it's just super unlikely, but we're not going to talk about that. Can you guys guess what Blank does? If you guessed the exact same fucking thing that Candy and Cindy do, you're fucking right. Why even try to make a mechanic that's interesting when you could just Control-C, Control-V code, right? That's so awesome. But as far as I can tell, Blank does at least do something different from Candy and Cindy. If you call the phone that's in the room he's in, he will disable it almost instantly, and that's about all that's different. Boring ass, dumbass, bitch, robot, bitch. You know, I really honestly wish I had more to talk about when it came to this game, but of course, it's a disappointment of a game, so I really don't. But we can talk about the post-Night 5 minigame. The post-Night 5 minigame actually has a lot of substance to it, so I thankfully actually have something to talk about. In this minigame, you play as Candy, and your goal is pretty unclear. As you wander around the building, you stumble into a room where you see police officers guarding the doors, with police lights flashing on the outside of the building. As you walk into the office, you see the corpse of what appears to be another police officer, and deep laughing can begin to be heard. As you continue to walk around the building, you'll notice that the door that Chester unlocked in the first minigame is now open. As you go to walk up to the door, 3 police officers bust the door down and tase the fuck out of Candy's plump ass. Isn't it crazy that this minigame has been more fun than the entirety of the rest of the game combined? God, you know, this should have been the game with absolutely nothing else, and I probably would have had more nice things to say about it. But let's move on to Night 6, because it's FNAF, so of course the title of the game is a lie. Night 6 removes every single animatronic we've seen so far, but adds 2 new ones, the rat and the cat. I'm sorry, did I say adds? I meant replacements, because these 2 animatronics literally add nothing new to the game. Both characters act the same way Candy and Cindy do, but the cat also has Chester's ability to pound on the vent, and the rat has the penguin's ability of forcing your cameras to reboot if you look at him for too long. Is this night good? Literally no. Is it unique? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing it? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing this game at all? Literally no. Am I having a good time writing this script? Kinda, I guess. There's only so much you can write about when the dev of the game shits in their hand and gives it to you with a sticky note attached that reads Five Nights at Candy's 2. But whatever. Post-Night 6 minigame time, I suppose. The Post-Night 6 minigame also has a lot to talk about. Hilariously more to talk about than the actual base game. This minigame starts with us playing as Old Candy, as we follow a Shadow Candy around the building. He leads us to an open door with a worker inside. As we approach this worker, he turns around and is rightfully frightened and tases the fuck out of us. Usually that's where these minigames would end, but we actually get to continue. Next, we're back in the body of Blank, with the task of picking up a bunch of pictures again, with the final picture being a drawing of Shadow Candy, and as the picture leaves our screen, we see Shadow Candy behind us and then he clanks Blank's cheeks. Bars. However, we're still not done playing this minigame. Next, we're back playing as Old Candy and again are tasked with following Shadow Candy around the building. We walk past a man in a black vest who looks very upset, and Shadow Candy leads us to the office where we find a crying child. As we walk up to the crying child, they get up and stop crying and prance out of the room all happy and shit. Continuing to follow Shadow Candy, he leads us back to the man in the black vest we saw earlier to find him grabbing the child we found by the head, based, and the child is crying. We walk up to the man and presumably bust it down freaky style with him and split him in half like a log. And that's the end of this minigame. I honestly appreciate this game doing something that at least feels like progress and understanding. However, that's where my critiques end for this game, because that's the fucking end of the game.
All right, Five Nights at Candy's 3 time. Hooray, hooray! Undoubtedly the best game in the main series. Let's figure out why. It opens to a cutscene of Vinny facing away from the camera, talking about how he knows we remember something, and that whatever it is was all our fault. We will soon learn it was in fact not our fault, but before we can dive into that, we should talk about the gameplay. Yay! My favorite part about writing these videos, and for once that isn't ironic. Starting the game, before night 1 begins, we get another cutscene. Presumably, our character is talking to a counselor or a psychologist, or something of the nature of that profession. In this game, we play as a child, and the office is replaced with a bedroom reminiscent of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This game takes a pretty similar approach to Five Nights at Freddy's 4 as well in terms of what is actually happening. It seems that what we experience is a dream, or I guess a nightmare would make more sense, which is very commonly believed to be what is happening in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 as well. We see that we drew a picture of our nightmares, that being the rat and the cat. We're then thrown into night 1, and I can do a gameplay breakdown. What can I say? This is my favorite part. Just kidding, we have some more bullshit before we can actually get into the night section of the game. We're tossed into an 8-bit minigame section, and before each night we will come back to this place. In it, we'll be able to explore the dreamscape, find secrets about the lore, and talk to the origami cat that we saw in Night Null from the remastered first game. As the night progresses, more things will be added to the dreamscape, but I'll explain that as we go. On the first night, all that's in our bedroom area of the dreamscape is the origami cat and our bed. The cat explains an important night mechanic, our tape player. I'll explain what that does when we actually get into the night. I mentioned that we can explore here, so what can we find, and what significance does it have? Well, let's explain how the dreamscape actually works first. You'll be able to see a clear path laid out, with nothing but darkness surrounding it. This darkness is not walls, as you can walk here, but if you walk too far from the path, you'll get jumped and butt-banged by the rat. So just stay on the path unless you know what you're doing. On night 1, following the path, we find a toy car that we can talk to. He really says nothing of significance. We also find newspaper clippings talking about the new animatronics that Candice has designed. Wow, I'm so excited. I hate talking about lore. If you're new to the channel, I don't like talking about lore because I'm really bad at it, but I try my best. We find a rock with engravings on it that says we shouldn't be scared of stepping off the path a little bit. Checking the back of the rock, it tells us to go south. Doing so leads us to another newspaper clipping, reading about a place called Rat and Cat's Theater, which will become very important to the story later. The puppet animatronic supposedly started moving on its own and attacked a child. The guy who was supposed to be remote controlling it got arrested because nobody believed him when he said it moved by itself. Typical. Never believe the wagee, right? Fuck them.
They said that they don't have any organic pasta sauce in the back. They must be lying. Now I have to make a scene until the manager of the building comes to my rescue and tells me the exact same thing the way G just told me. Anyways, here we can find our tape player and an arcade game. Oh boy, arcade games. I don't know about you guys, but I personally hate the arcade games in any FNAF game. Maybe I'm just a hater, but I've never been a fan. Anyways, now we can actually move on to my favorite part of the video. Game mechanic breakdown, the part I'm actually good at. This game plays very basic in nature, and honestly isn't all that hard. But I do think it's the most enjoyable gameplay out of the whole series. Before we talk about the characters, I want to talk about the tape player that we picked up earlier. Located behind us, we can access this tape player, and if you play the music, the night will progress faster. So there's seriously no reason not to play it. The only downside is that it makes noise, and listening in this game is kind of important. After a bit of time, the tape player will stop, and you'll have to rewind it in order to play it again. Now, to talk about the only threat active on night 1, the rat. Just like Candy's 1, there are 3 entry points the animatronics can attack from, 2 doors and a closet. The rat will occasionally appear at any of these 3 areas, and you'll know he's there based off of sound cues and opening your fucking eyes and looking. If you catch him fast enough, he'll hide again, very similar to Bonnie and Chica from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If, however, you don't flash him with your light quick enough, he will enter his attack phase, wherein he'll jump in front of you, waving his dick in your face. During his attack phase, all you have to do is keep your flashlight on his face. He'll move his head out of the way to try to avoid the light. After successfully defending yourself, the attack still isn't over, as the rat will jump under your bed. At this time, you must check under your bed to see which side he's on. Once you figure it out, you must come back up and look in the opposite direction of where he was to lure him out from under the bed. Here is where you have to listen very closely to be able to hear him coming up from under the bed. Look too early, and you're cooked. Look too late, and you're also cooked. Once you hear the sound cue, quickly turn and flash your light at his face once more, and he'll finally leave your room, ending the attack phase. This is honestly pretty damn cool, I can't even lie. I think it's interesting how he doesn't give up on his pursuit so easily and continues to try different means of attacking you. Again, the rat is the only threat on this night, so completing it isn't all too hard. After completing the night, we get a post-night minigame. Yay, more lore. I'm so excited. Each of these minigames plays the same on each night, with small differences here and there. In these games, we play as our character inside of the Rat and Cat Theater. Walking around, we can talk to our dad and eventually find the rat, who at the time wasn't an animatronic, but was instead just a big mascot costume that an actual human would be inside of. He asks to play hide and seek, and it's our job to hide. Spoiler alert, you will always be found. When he finds you, the minigame ends and we head back to Dreamscape. Night 2 Dreamscape adds a drawer with a lamp to our bedroom. Heading into the darkness, we find another rock, and on the back, it reads to go east. Going east, we find a newspaper clipping reading that Rat and Cat Theater will be reopening. We find another rock, tells us to go north, and we do find another path. Following it, we find a newspaper clipping reading that the animatronics at Rat and Cats will be safely controlled by experts. Judging by what we read in a previous clipping, I have a funny feeling they're not going to listen. But you know what? I'm sure it's totally fine. Traveling off the path again, we find a toy horse that says a whole lot of fucking nothing. Keep traveling around and we find another arcade game and can finally go back into the meat and potatoes of this game. All right, night 2. Anything new? No. It's the same as night 1, but the rat is more aggressive. Yay! Now I get to talk about more lore. I'm not excited. I'm so sorry you have to hear me talk about this. The post-night 2 minigame has us play hide and seek with the cat this time. Spoiler alert, you still can't win. Get found and we go back to the Dreamscape. This is going to be majorly what I talk about in the section of the video until something new is introduced, by the way, so I truly apologize for that. Dreamscape Night 3 actually introduces something new, Nightmare Cat. Not only will he be active in the nights now, but in the Dreamscape as well. His purpose in the Dreamscape is to give you a time limit for how long you can be in the darkness. However, it's a very generous amount of time, so I highly doubt it'll be a huge problem. We find a rock with engravings telling us to go east. You know how this goes by now. We find a newspaper clipping explaining that the building has arcade machines. Oh, riveting lore. Thanks for telling me, asshole. Find another newspaper clipping that literally just says adults can talk and drink coffee. What the fuck am I playing right now, guys? Is this story actually good? Why do I give a fuck about such minor details like this, bro? Oh, hey, another newspaper clipping. I wonder if it says anything of substance. It doesn't. It says kids can have fun. Wow, my jaw is agape right now. We find a worthless toy duck and an arcade game 3 part 1, and finally can continue on to the next night, where I actually have 2 mechanics to talk about. This night, as I mentioned earlier, introduces the cat. His mechanic is very simple, but can prove to be an annoyance if timed improperly with the rat. The cat will at random appear on the left or right side of your bed. You'll be able to hear it breathing. When you do, all you have to do is turn towards it and hold your light on it until it hides away. Easy. The only time this becomes a problem is if he attacks you while you're dealing with the rat. Since the rat's attack is so long, there's a decent chance that cat and rat could Eiffel Tower you, which I can guarantee there is Rule 34 of, but I don't have the bravery to look for it myself. The other new mechanic is knocking. This is both a blessing and a curse. When the rat appears at one of your doors, there's a chance he can knock. It's a very loud knock, so you should always hear it. However, the rat will always try to trick you by knocking at a door he's not actually at. The knock will be directional, so if you hear a knock on your left side, you know that the rat is either at your right door or your closet, which can actually really help narrow it down on later nights when you have to be quick. Nothing else really to talk about here, so let's move on to the next stupid fuck-ass lore dump. In this minigame, we see a man dressed as the puppet. He says that usually Vinny is with him, which leads me to believe that Vinny is probably the robot puppet that attacked the child. Moving on, we talk to the rat, play an unwinnable game of hide and seek again, and it's back to the dreamscape. A lot of people glaze this game for having a good story, and I'll admit that from what I understand, it's pretty cool, but holy shit, the way it tells its story is so goddamn cock-sucking boring, bro. I don't want to play hide and seek for the millionth time, dude. Seriously, please, do something different, I'm dying. In the dreamscape, we find a newspaper clipping reading about a new horror movie, and saying the actor did a really good job playing a psychopath. Gonna take a wild guess, that's probably because the actor is a psychopath. Why the fuck am I reading about this? I need someone to explain to me in the comments because I'm stumped. We find part 2 of the third arcade game, a stupid fucking toy robot, and a note written by who I'm guessing is the guy who was dressed as the puppet. He says that the theater was never meant for him and that he always wanted to be an actor. Now, I'm going to guess that this guy is also the actor who played the psycho we read about earlier. Anyways, who gives a fuck? Next nighttime! Is there anything new? No, it's just harder. Let's talk about the minigame. Wanna guess what we do? That's right. Play hide and seek with the cat and fucking lose because we're garbage. Dreamscape time! Boy, this game is really short when you break it down, huh? A lot of filler bullshit when you stop and think about it. In the dreamscape, we find a note mentioning a brutal accident between 2 theater coworkers, but it doesn't go into detail. Another newspaper clipping we find later explains a bit more. Both actors were found dead, one from asphyxiation and the other from cracking their neck on the edge of a table. It seems that one choked the other, killing them, and then passed out from the adrenaline and died against the table. That seems a bit coincidental, doesn't it? And we did just learn there was an implication that someone else was a psychopath. Something fishy is going on here. Finally, we find a toy teapot and part 3 of the third arcade game and can go to my favorite part. Just kidding, nothing new is added. It's just harder again, so I have nothing fun to talk about. Minigame time! I'm losing my fucking mind! Finally, in this minigame, something different happens. This time, we played hide and seek with the cat, except the cat is going to try to find a fuck ton of kids like Jared Fogle. This time, however, we go to hide in a different spot than previously, inside of one of the employee-only rooms. Inside, we find Vinny, the controllable puppet, and we hide inside a locker. The rat quickly follows behind us, and human Vinny comes in to scold the rat's actor for being drunk around the kids. Rather than just explain this to you, I'd rather just show you what happens. Do you have any idea what would happen if any of the parents found out that one of our actors is drunk? Think of our careers. Think of the children. What about the children? They love me. I'm the most popular character in this freaking show. Don't be jealous that I've got talent and you don't. You have no idea what you're talking about. Take off that costume, you're going home. No, I'm gonna go back out there and keep this damn show alive. No, you're not. Take it off now. Oh shit. Cut it out. Oh, dick. Toy Chica, do that to me for real, please. My Toy Chica. You know what I mean. Let me go, bitch. Damn, please. Please. Oh shit, he's dead. Hey. Hey. Are you okay? Come on, man, this isn't funny. Oh no. No, no, no. With all the... What happened? Lock the door. I didn't mean to. It was an accident, I swear. You have to call an ambulance and the police. You have to tell them what happened. No, wait. Was always a bit unstable. He'd been drinking. We found him like this. Yes. That's what we have to tell them. We found him dead in here. Listen, it was an accident, an honest mistake. We have to tell them what really happened. But I can't. Oh shit! What are you doing? I can't. That's right. The two co-workers weren't fighting each other. Instead, they were both murdered. And we were inside the closet, able to hear and witness the entire thing go down. At the time, Human Vinny had no idea we were there, and he thought he could just dust his hands and have the whole thing blow over to be an accident, moving on to become the movie star he'd always wanted to be. But now that we've been talking with our counselor, we remember, and with the truth coming out, Vinny was held responsible. And let me tell you, this motherfucker is not happy one bit. This is why he was saying it was our fault at the beginning, which, bullshit, by the way. It's your fault. You killed them, you retard. Going into night 6, we talk to Vinny once more. He explains again it's our fault and that he will personally make sure that we never sleep again. Night 6 consists of only Nightmare Vinny. And let me tell you, this night is no walk in the park. Vinny works the exact same as the rat, except he's more aggressive, and his attack phase is much more brutal. When he attacks, instead of moving his head, it will rotate in a circle, making following his head incredibly more difficult. The window for flashing him is also much smaller, and the amount of time you can spend not flashing him is microscopic, like your penis, bitch. This night is fucking hard. I know there are challenges in this game that make it harder, and I know there's a more difficult version of this game called FNAF But Better that makes it even harder, but fuck you. This night is a pain in the dick. I naturally have very shaky hands, and that prevents me from being able to complete it without pouring hours and hours of work into it, but I urge you to play through this game for yourself if you don't believe me how hard it is. Keeping your mouse on this fucker is ass. Very ass. Big ol' jiggly dick ass. Do you like nuts in your mouth? Do ya? Because you're gonna have a lot of nuts in your mouth while you're getting teabagged by this asshole. He's gonna be dragging your nuts across your forehead, and you're going to be begging for his Jeeb juice because you're a dirty little piglet. Oh please, mix it with orange Fanta. Chris Chan, fuck out, boy. Anyways, after beating the night, we get one last minigame. We step out of the locker, walk past the bodies, and out of the building where we're greeted by the police who didn't even know we were in there, and reuniting with our dad. Really, the only other thing to talk about is the arcade games we've been collecting in Dreamscape. Fishing with Candy, Cindy's Garden, and Candy's Adventure. Fishing with Candy has us catch fish. Wow, I bet you couldn't have figured that out. Occasionally, Petey will appear to take one of your fish like the dirty little slut that he is. If you reach a score of 9,999, you will enter a secret minigame. In this game, you play as a parent walking around the Candy's building, eventually stumbling upon a crowd of kids watching Vinny. The kids disappear and Vinny's smile turns into a frown. Afterwards, the game ends. Cindy's Garden has us whack moles. Reaching a score of 9,999 will send us to another minigame, this time playing as the cat. We have to catch 2 kids and put them on a conveyor belt. turning them into Candy and Cindy. So, yeah, that's pretty fucked. We just put 2 live children through a machine that compacted them inside of a metal suit. That's like super fucked up. And I don't think I needed to tell you how fucked up that is, yet here I am telling you that. Finally, we have Candy's Adventure, and fuck is this a long one. It's normal for 90% of it, just being a Mario-style platformer where you have to avoid some enemies, solve some puzzles, and collect some power-ups. I will add that this minigame is pretty damn hard, however. At the end, there's a boss fight against a big dog, and once you beat him, you can glitch the game and enter another secret minigame. In this minigame, we play as the rat. We have to walk through the original Candy's restaurant, avoiding the gaze of the other animatronics, and eventually get to the office where we attack the night guard and helicopter our dick in front of him to make him jealous. And with that, I'm pretty certain that is all Five Nights at Candy's 3 has to offer. Please let me know if I missed anything in the comments. That's also where this video wraps up. Overall, I do think the entire Candy's experience is fairly enjoyable as long as you don't count the second game, because that game is actually the most boring shit of all time. Like, holy shit, I hate it so much. I do think the hype around the lore is deserved, since it actually tells a very disturbing and interesting story. However, I do not think that the gameplay matches the lore enough for me to say this game is anything better than mediocre. With the first 2 games being way too easy, and the third game barely having anything to it in the night sections, and having the lore be told through a very boring and repetitive cutscene, I can't say this series is anything incredible. Yes, it is one of the first FNAF fan games ever made, and that has to go into consideration, but I'm not going to review a game differently based on the time it was released. This game could have been much better if the gameplay and story were just balanced better, and I don't feel like they are.